that means. Hi, good evening. It is Thursday, February 27th. This is the advisory committee meeting tonight because of last week's snowstorm, and we do have a quorum. We're going to begin tonight's agenda by having the vault committee, the committee that is looking into, I was going to say hired, that's not quite the right word, but volunteered. There you go. Volunteered lassoed in by the select board to take a look at the vault situation at town hall for the town, and so we're going to report on what your findings are and what your recommendations are and what you're looking for. So let me just introduce Diane Swenson, Roger Breeze, and Don Halsey. Pam Powell, who's the clerk, is also on the committee but is not able to attend tonight. So who would like to speak?
Well, I'll start, I think. On behalf of the vault committee, we wish to propose the addition of a line item in the town clerk's budget to cover the expenses of evaluating a location, feasibility, and primary architectural drawings for a state-mandated town vault. We feel we need a safe place that's fireproof, environmentally controlled, and accessible to store the town permanent records required by the state. Our study has shown with the demands of the town departments, we polled all of them that have permanent records, we feel the minimum space we need is the size of 10 by 20 by 8 foot high. We expect the costs of the preliminary study and the architectural drawings to be about $30,800. The number has come from Sterling has just opened up in the last year a similar facility to what we're proposing.
So a couple of things. We certainly want you to go through some of your questions here. Because you're asking for it to be a part of the clerk's budget, which it's a little bit unusual. Had you given consideration for the architectural work to be an article?
Yes, we have. We had originally figured that an article was the way to do it. We met with Don Lowe 10 days ago, and Don suggested that probably a better way to do it would be consider trying to put it in as a line on the town clerks. So therefore, that's why I suggested it that way.
What I actually asked was, have they considered it as an option?
Yeah.
Oh, have they considered it as an option?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we thought it was a good option.
Okay, so that's the article.
That's the article.
Yeah, we have a. So this what you're showing us here is.
What I'm showing you is pictures of the Sterling facility.
Oh, they just finished.
They just opened it.
And that's over here. That's
the facility.
Yeah, on their town hall.
Yeah.
And it's similarly the same square or cubic feet. I guess that we talked.
Cubic feet. It's the same.
It's 2 floors or something?
Yeah, it's 2 floors, and the basement floor is really all rocks and rebar and stone, so that it's got to be fireproof down there.
How does it connect to the main building? Is there a special fireproof door?
Yeah,
Is that the door?
That's the door right there.
And that has to be. That has all sorts of requirements from what it looks like.
It's essentially 2 doors that are fireproof.
That's the comparison.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what they had
Yeah.
before.
Can you just...
No, that's what we have.
That's what we have.
That's
That's that.
Very telling. It's visual effects.
But when we met with another board, they were meeting here, and it was like, well, where's our vault? Right here. Turn around.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, so you've sent us a lot of information, and I don't know if you've done this presentation in front of the selectmen or not.
No,
But there
we
is,
have
okay, so that there is a, can you just first summarize the reason that, well, first of all, if initially you were looking at, are you okay, you want some water?
I told you, I just got back.
I know.
I've been I've been in bed for 2 weeks, for 10 days.
So initially when this had appeared on, I guess in sort of in conversation, you were looking for $413,000 for the actual the total amount of the vault.
Right.
And so that's a big number.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what has led us from having, you know, this to now spending somewhere around over $400,000 at some period of time for another structure?
Well, my feeling is, and I think our committee's feeling is if you look around you, that's where we store our permanent records today. If you look behind me, that's where your records are stored as the advisory committee. If you happen to open up the advisory drawer, you will find one reason that I don't think we should ever use fireproof safe vaults anymore. Every drawer is filled with white powder over top of all your records.
And how,
What's happening is the ceiling in each of the vault chambers in the drawers is flaking off.
Well, I guess more importantly, for me, I think your question was, what I was gonna ask is, what led us to get here? I understand what we have is substandard, is not ideal, et cetera.
yeah.
But you walk, and remember, this is for.
This is for everybody.
too,
And we
is
have that vault.
What
Yep.
regulations did the state come up with? Is this required for, yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen some, but is
Yeah.
this required for us? Is it absolutely mandatory? If it is, what the timing is, et cetera, et cetera?
20 years ago, 1993, the state came out with a requirement that each town would have some room to store the permanent records required by each town for the state. That room has to be fireproof, and it has to be environmentally controlled, both temperature and humidity, plus or minus about 2 degrees and about 2%, and it has to be monitored. Needless to say, we don't do either of those, and some of the other towns in the area have been fortunate enough, like example Stowe, Berlin, and Northborough, have taken over old schools, and they have taken one of the classrooms down into the back corner in the unit and made that room their vault.
So one of the points, and I don't mean to be interrupting you, but one of the points that is made throughout this is that the vault needs to be near the clerk's office. How does somebody like Stowe or one of these other places that have done schools satisfy that concern?
They don't. But what they do is if you poll them as an individual, like we were on the vault committee, and asked them if you had to do it over again as the town clerk, would you put your vault in the back corner away from you? And what we find with almost all the town clerks is they assess the vault a minimum of, on average, of a little over 1.5 times per day.
They have to get something.
They have to get something from the vault. So if you've got your vault that's down the hall, all the way to the back corner, and into the end of the hallway, essentially was what a lot of them are. What happens when you get there some of the times?
Forget what you're looking for.
Or you forgot your key, right?
Why am I here? Who am I?
Or you forget your key. Is it gonna happen? It's human nature. And so all of them said, if I had a choice, I would put it as close as possible to me so I could view who was in the vault, and I could get the information out of the vault as soon as, at an ease of time frame for myself.
So a question that I'm sure that many people raise is, why does all this paper have to continue to be stored? Why isn't everything digitized? Why, so that doesn't require us to have this room and really incur such, I know it's law, and is that totally the answer?
Can we get back, I didn't get my answer though on the
Okay.
law. So they came up with these regulations
Yep.
on what it should look like, what it needs to do. Yeah, I get all that.
Yep.
What time frame did they put on towns
They didn't.
complying? So what's Bolton's
They did put a
risk
fine,
to not having this vault?
they did put a fine if there was not one in place.
By
we-
when they.
They did not say,
specify?
there's no specification of time frame.
Okay,
So at the present time, that's why we've been able to get away with it for 20 years and not be fined. The question is could it happen at any time? Yeah, it could. Is it probable? No, but if something happened, you know what would happen very quickly in the state's point of view.
Sure.
You would be fine.
What's the fine structure, do you know?
$200 a day.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No,
Your
I think
question
that's
is good, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to frame this huge need into the way that I did with the Five Shire Dam.
Yeah.
Okay, we were
Yeah.
it was jurisdictional, we were in non-compliance, we were getting letters saying you gotta comply. This isn't the case.
This is not the case.
This is trying to bring us compliant from something we've neglected for a while.
Correct.
But there's no immediate risk to not doing it, other than a catastrophic event here that would severely compromise.
You know,
town
Like
government.
Randy,
fire.
if we take a look at the fire we had at the town barns back in 2007, I mean,
DPW.
Yeah.
they lost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
Some
what's gonna
permanent
happen is we're gonna, and the problem is if we lose everything, that becomes where our problems become. Because now we've got nothing, if somebody sued us for something with data to back up the information that we have. It doesn't exist, because it's not acceptable to use electronic data for anything.
So this is.
That's- yeah,
That is not an acceptable.
But microfiche is.
Microfiche is because
And
it lasts 300 to 500 years.
And it have we microfiched a bunch of our? Not-
Not that I'm aware of,
I think some of it's microfilm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But not a lot.
Not a lot.
Not a
Do we
lot.
know do we know the cost that would be required to have a firm come in and microfiche all of our documents?
No.
The $30,000 study.
Yep.
Does that cost include the analysis of, my foray into this and trying to get my head around this and understand this was, yes, it's state law, there's absolute critical documents that must be hard copy, must be on site. But there's a whole mess of other documents that this microfiche, and my understanding also that, the law has also been upgraded to allow for electronic. So.
That's
but-
not true.
All right.
At
So-
least from anything that we have found, we have not found any specific spot where electronic is approved as a primary source. Electronic is approved for accessibility and data sorting and that kind of thing, but that's not a primary source of information. There's a difference.
So I think your question.
Which is
Yeah.
Yeah.
just,
But it's the state, it's,
just asinine in this day and age, but fine, it's the law.
Well, it's
So,
it's
the-
more than just the law. It's the person who motivated our House and Senate to pass that law. And as long as that person is there, it's,
That's
it's
not,
the problem's not gonna go away. I'm just telling you. I was in that business for 20 years.
so the $30,000 fee, I mean, is there, within that, is there some type of analysis to anticipate management? I guess my question is, 20 years from now, is someone gonna be coming back looking for a second vault? And so where can we obviously satisfy the law, get the vault, keep the stuff on hand and on paper, but I really do, if it is microfiche, it's comical in this day and age, but can we get everything else on microfiche then? And what's that gonna
the question
cost?
is, does it make sense for us to, as you're an individual, would you want to put everything on microfiche?
Hell no.
Exactly.
However-
That's why we didn't
However-
even.
But however, if it costs $10,000,
Right,
that fit
and
in a
it-
little box that
yeah.
we could put in some,
Exactly.
then yes, I would
If
love
there's,
to do
if
it.
there's a firm,
If
if
there's
there's
some-
someone that does that, and it's
And
gonna
they-
cost whatever it is, what is that relative to dropping 400? Can the 400 go down to 250?
No.
Or, okay.
Because the reason is, at 400 essentially, it doesn't, you're really looking at an optimum room. If you're making a fireproof room and environmental controls, where are your costs? It's not in the size of the room.
And you
It's-
don't want it too
it's-
large, I
it's-
was reading.
That's right, it's in the controls and everything else. Whether you make that room 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, you're not gonna, the dollars aren't gonna be significantly different.
I had a question here, one of the discussion questions, what is the expected useful life of the vault, 25 years?
No,
Oh, that's what it says.
that was supposed to be changed. We changed that to 100.
What did this one cost, you know?
Yeah, that's where the number come from, about 375, Randy.
What's the size of this?
Same thing, it's 20 by
Storage.
20 by 10.
Do you know, in your research travels, how many towns are non-compliant with this law?
We can't put an exact number on it. We know that Southborough is doing the same thing that we're doing, of looking to evaluate adding a facility. We know that Clinton uses a safe.
All right, so Lancaster, Stowe, Harvard, this is
Well,
those.
Stowe, we know, no,
I don't-
no, that's Sterling.
Stowe's-
We
Stowe is
we
in
have a
a,
whole list, and I don't have it in front of me now. We went to every town locally to find out what they did and what they're going to do. And all of them have, locally, except for ourselves and Southborough, are the only two that don't have anything today.
Well, we should probably use Dave's list of sampling of towns, just to have everything
well,
prepared.
it's just around, yeah,
I think we probably got it, but if you could forward me your list of towns, I can probably tell you what every town does. I know that Lunenburg essentially just added a new facility, so they've
I
got.
think don't a lot of towns, when they're remodeling
Correct.
or building a new town hall,
That's what-
My question happened when I was looking at the timeline, or I was looking, at the timeline.
Yep.
And also looking at some write-ups, said that at one time, this was brought up when we were doing some remodeling, and
It was originally brought up when we remodeled to move over here,
1993.
93 or four, someplace in that
But
time
then it
frame.
was decided not to go ahead, or it was hard for me to figure out if the selectmen didn't put it on, or if the,
The selectmen didn't feel it was important at the time to spend the money for it.
less money then.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Of the information that when you polled the town clerks and people who were accessing the vault, were they able, in that poll, did you get a distinguishable idea of what kind of information they were accessing? In other words, was there a smaller amount that they were constantly accessing and then a bigger amount that was just kind of archival stuff that was in there?
I didn't get that opinion, did you,
No.
from anybody? And I took pictures at Sterling 3 different times, and one lady was there 2 out of the 3 times. And it wasn't the town clerk, but because of where the Sterling one is located, you can see from the picture, she can really look right out her window, like the thing that Pam has, and she can look right inside the
Yeah,
vault.
so I asked,
So
and I guess Pam's probably the one to ask, but,
Yeah.
could there be like a working vault here that's smaller and then an off-site, more cost-effective, bigger
Those are
archival
just our
vault
existing
somewhere else?
Well, I think that the vault is a vault, so
That's-
it really doesn't matter whether one document is looked at more frequently than another.
Right.
It's the fact that the material has to be placed in something that's fireproof and secure.
Right.
Now, what the state
Right,
requirement actually is that the documents need to be readily accessible. I mean, one of the options that Pam and I looked around maybe a year ago was, could we store some of this stuff in the basement of the library?
I was thinking the
And
same thing,
We can't
okay.
do that because that's not readily accessible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was
That's
wondering how
where I was
Stowe got
going with that.
to be able to do it in their school. That's the thing that's.
No, they're doing their town building.
Oh, I thought you said school,
Their
old
town.
school.
No, that's Berlin
Oh.
and Northborough are in old schools.
Oh,
Where-
Berlin and North.
I mean, they've revamped old schools.
Yeah, how'd they get away with it?
They have made the room fireproof.
What do they turn?
Right, but it's not
It's not
accessible.
easily accessible.
But what do they?
Yeah,
how
it
do
is,
they-
it's in the same building,
It's down at Town Hall.
Yeah, it's the town
Oh,
hall.
the school became
The
the
school,
town
the
hall.
school
Okay,
is the
got it.
town hall in
How
those
do they
cases.
define readily accessible? Is it defined?
No,
So if it's not defined, then.
it's
Well,
readily
Ra-
accessible.
Randy, readily available would be, you can walk either downstairs or upstairs in this building. where you have to get in a car and travel to some other facility.
I'm
That's
just-
not.
That's not good.
I'm wondering
I
if
agree.
the Houghton building would be considered readily accessible.
We're not- this is-
I'm asking what, if the term's ambiguous, then the interpretation or the definition of the term could also.
But I
be
think
ambiguous.
common sense would dictate that it's as close to being co-located with the town clerk and the information.
To me, the town clerk needs to have observation if somebody's in looking at some permanent sheets.
Yeah, sure.
So therefore, it should be readily accessible to their office.
Oh, yeah, because other people would have access to.
Because there's gonna be other people, there's gonna be a genealogist going in and looking at information on some historical vital records. It's gonna happen.
Sure.
So this is where I am on doing some research on it and hearing tonight. I mean, not to cut to the chase, but for me, it's hard to get my head around, regardless of whether it's in the budget, which I don't agree with, or a separate article for the 30,000. It's hard to get my head around spending money on something that, to me, is ultimately gonna, if we do spend the money and then need to go forward with a $400,000 vault, that's gonna have to be on the warrant. And people are gonna ask the same kind of questions that we've been asking tonight. What happens if we don't do it? The answer sounds like nothing right now, today. You'll have a much more compelling argument when we get a letter that says, you know, like we did on the dam, that says, we're gonna start to fine you, you know. I'm rationalizing this, right? And it's tough to think about this right now. And I understand the need and the years of neglect, but with the limited financial resources, it's tough to get our head around doing something that it appears that if we don't do anything, it's still okay for a little bit.
But the only part that may be not okay is that the deterioration of records, and that's where there's some concern that presumably the vault would, you know, maintain the records, which is,
For 400,000, it might clean your house too.
I like that, thank you. So, no.
Can I
it's-
ask a question?
Yeah.
What's your opinion of the selectmen doing nothing in 20 years ago?
Well, they probably were faced with the exact same situation we're faced with today. There's a law out there that's got no bite to it. And
That's
so
right.
why do we spend $400,000 to do anything? I don't see any bite to the law. I mean,
And
unless
is it
I'm missing something.
just white powder on top of the records? Is there anything else wrong with the records?
Well, if you put white powder on the records, how long are they gonna last?
Yeah, you-
Well, that's what I'm asking.
How long are they gonna
Have-
last?
how-
What's gonna happen to them next?
Well, that's a time frame I don't know. I mean, if it's been like that for 20 years and the records are all
No,
fine, or
that's,
they're
it's
deteriorated,
been
or
like
what
that for
state?
6 months. It's your records that are like that.
I know, but I'm just trying to find out what the state of those records are right now. What state are they in right now today? Are they crumbly? Are they, you know, have they deteriorated and faded to where we can't read any of
Well,
them?
some
We
aren't
pick them
in-
up and they fall
Yeah,
apart.
and some aren't in fireproof. I mean, I think that at a minimum.
That's what I wanna know.
Some of them are not in fireproof files, and I think at a minimum, we'd have to get some things into fireproof, you know, that aren't.
Right.
I mean, is there another step, and I think, you know, what Brad might have also been asking is, you know, if we put this, or a smaller maybe portion of this money, or a portion of this money into really examining record retention and how we can get there and how we can make sure what we have is safe without having to do the vault.
Do we know what the problem has been with our fireproof stuff?
It was determined,
Deteriorated.
we found it last week, right?
Okay, yeah, no, but we know that, I wonder if they're, I mean, those are how old? I mean, maybe.
Those are fairly new, the way
Oh,
they
they
are.
are? Okay.
See those two cabinets right there?
Yeah.
That's the two I'm talking about.
And
They're fairly new.
Yeah, okay.
What's
Good.
fairly new? Because that's relative
Couple-
to me.
couple-
Any
Couple
idea?
years
Pam, we
away?
gave
I honestly don't
We
know.
gave Pam some money a couple, 3 years
That's
ago to
really
purchase fireproof
Yep.
file
Yeah.
cabinets, I remember.
Yeah.
And that's probably those, because if you look at them, they look very new.
Yeah.
On the outside, they look new, on the inside, they look new. And Pam had said that there was white deposit, and I opened them up, and you can see the top of, in each of the drawers, it's completely flaked off.
Yeah.
It just makes no, I mean, the problem is you're gonna contaminate the whatever paper you got underneath there with that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's not just the only thing, is this, we don't know what those cabinets are rated at.
Yeah, what
Right.
did-
Yeah.
When you buy fireproof cabinets,
Yeah.
there are different ratings.
10 minutes at
And,
500
and,
degrees.
the more money you spend, the longer it can be in a fire and
Yeah.
hotter before it goes. So,
Exactly.
you know, if we got the, grade 1, then it may not necessarily last as long
Well, we
in a
got
fire.
security
That's for
cameras.
vaults too, though.
But it sounds
Yes,
as
but
if.
But the vault has
But a
very
vault-
specific
but a vault-
requirements.
But a vault's gonna have much more capability.
6 hours at 350 degrees,
Than-
and the
than that.
state's required. I mean, I guess
6
you don't
hours
have.
at 350 degrees?
Yeah.
The- Randy, the walls are a foot and a half thick on the thing.
It's like a nuclear shelter.
Exactly, they're a foot and a half thick on 3 sides, and the bottom was like 10, the one that's Sterling built, the bottom is 10 foot of
Huh?
stones and rocks and rebar.
Well,
So that, to me, that's pretty fireproof if the other is fireproof.
What do we have now for space, in terms of that room and?
That room is not
and the
usable.
cabinets?
No.
That room is not
Oh,
usable.
okay, oh, all right.
Because it's,
So everything that was in there is out in cabinets that are fireproof?
Correct.
Okay, got
and
it.
Not all,
my
not
person,
everything's in fireproof.
Okay.
yeah, my personal feeling is, I would say that we have some permanent records in cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I think and I don't want to counter Don's suggestion, but I think it was a good one. I mean, we'd have to look at inside, outside. I think, at least for me, I'd like to see this as a separate article. And what that does is it allows the vault study committee to present at town meeting what you found, what the need is, get there to be some awareness. And then the town makes a decision on how they want to spend their money.
Don?
I'd just like to say, when I came down and met with the vault committee, it was sort of a brainstorming session, and I sort of had a knee-jerk reaction. Gee, did you ever consider this being part of the budget? The more I've thought about it, the more I've actually thought it makes much more sense for it to be an article, and I say that for 2 reasons. One is, first of all, they could get rolling on it right away as soon as the money's appropriated. They wouldn't have to wait until
Till July.
July.
Yeah.
But the bigger issue is certainly if we go forward with a vault article to install the vault, that obviously would be a town meeting vote. And I think spending $30,000 on engineering and so forth is, if it's voted for, is really tacit approval of the overall project.
Yeah.
So-
Right, because nobody's want to spend that kind of
Right,
money.
you're not gonna spend $30,000 to
for
not do
nothing.
the work. So looking at it from that perspective, it gives the townspeople a chance to weigh in on the overall concept of the vault, not just, and I don't mean just in that $30,000 is a minimal amount of money, but it allows them to weigh in on whether or not it's something that they want to go forward with. So, you know, certainly people should be allowed to do that. So in that light, I do think it makes more sense to
And I
have it
like
as
the
an
idea of
article.
the presentation too.
Well, yeah, and even if we have this on this committee, which I don't know if we do,
Yeah.
put it in the
Yeah.
budget,
Yeah.
we'd make a decision for the town to spend the 30.
That's
And then
right.
when the 400 came to the town to build the
That's
thing,
right.
they'd be like,
Yeah.
wouldn't,
Yeah,
the
but
first
Yes,
time.
it
wouldn't be
around,
a-
yeah.
yeah.
And to Don's point's perfect, like,
Yeah.
if they're gonna approve the feasibility study.
Then they approve the whole
they're
thing.
sold, Then they're, well.
Yeah,
but
essentially, I mean,
if-
Still,
It's a-
it's just a step.
right, I mean, it's step one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
making a commitment to the project
Yeah.
in some form.
And then you can say next year, you guys
Yeah.
got your hands around the concept, we did what you gave us money to do, they're telling us it's gonna cost this. If we don't do this, we've wasted that 30, that's a compelling argument. Another compelling argument is if the law ever changes and has some bite. I mean, I think that's more perfect.
Don? I mean, go ahead and stand too. Is there any thought about doing any remodeling to the town hall or moving town hall or?
Well,
I mean, I know, I know.
we've got at least 100 years use of left out of this building, but,
We just
No, but-
remodeled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have no other ways to remodel. I mean, we don't have any more space. I've had no conversation, no thoughts about putting an addition on the building or anything like that. The only context in which I've ever had a discussion on putting an addition on the building is the wall.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I don't want us to do the vault and, 5 years later, move somewhere else,
I mean,
unless
I
it.
probably, not that I'm anticipating creating any new positions in the next 5 years, but one of the reasons why, unless I had an extraordinary need, one of the other reasons why I wouldn't create a new position right now, and I'm not sure I'd have another office, space for another office to create to put somebody here, so we certainly don't have any space left over here. So, no, the short answer to your question is no, we have not been contemplating remodeling the building, and the only context in which it's ever been tossed out about a new town hall is if anything was ever done with the Smith property and there was space left over from it, would the town be interested in doing something down there? And one of the concepts was a new town hall, but that was extraordinarily preliminary, and really, it's not on anybody's radar
Okay.
screen.
What, not to beat a dead horse here, but I would really like if, in the wording of this, if you guys could, try and add in some language, that involves, records management as a whole, because while I look at this and it's almost, I think it's really easy to kind of say, all right, well, all these records are going to be grabbed out of town hall and shoved into this brand new box. And I think a more compelling story is if you can turn around and say, we've reviewed and looked through the law, and these certain documents are absolutely required to have a hard copy on hand. And these ones we need to keep for X number of years, and these ones we need to keep, and these ones we can actually get rid of. And then this particular group, the state has, allowed towns to move those records over, and they can be accessed by the state level and all that. And then from there, we're also working on coming up with a game plan and put stuff on microfiche. That's a more compelling argument, because in the absence of that, it's, we grabbed all the records out of town hall and we put them in a fireproof box.
Let me put the town clerk hat on for a minute, because Pam has been asked that exact question a couple of times, and what her comment is the records that would go into a vault are not records that are a short-term or a 7-year or a 20-year type time frame. We're talking records that would go into the vault are permanent records and permanent records only. They're not records that every 5 years or every 10 years you're going to pull those out and you're going to replace it with something else. They don't go in the first place. The only thing that would ever go in the vault in the first place would be records that are permanent and permanent only.
Okay.
Okay, so the record management that you're talking about would never make the vault.
All right.
Okay, that just they would never make it.
So thank you for that clarification. So in the example of a record that is required to be kept on hand for 12 years.
Not necessarily, yeah, there probably isn't going to be room in the vault.
Okay, but that record that's presently in this building, that's
Right.
required to be kept for 12 years, that is not a permanent record,
Right.
isn't going in this brand new thing.
Correct.
However, it's not going to do a thing to save that record when this thing burns down.
No,
So,
no.
Well, can't fight City Hall, as they say. I'm not cutting you
Yeah,
off,
no,
but I know
I
you're
know.
frustrated.
How big do you want to build the
Yeah.
building? That's
Anybody have any other questions for the vault
Yeah.
committee? So, are you comfortable with doing an article?
an article.
Yeah,
Sasha, you're good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
I just want to say thanks.
Yeah,
for
no, with all the
your
hard work,
and
yeah.
Don't let the reaction
I'm sure-
extinguish the enthusiasm.
No, I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard this reaction anyway. Kind of hard.
Of course it is.
But we do appreciate it, and it'll be interesting and.
And we can always use the unused space if anyone in town wants to store their valuable red wine or ports, we could charge them great money.
And we could cut Don's office in half.
And I'd have to move the line out.
Don would be sitting
Did
on
you
his
have
own
a
level.
question for the vault committee?
Very brief comment.
Okay.
The 413,000 works out to about $215 a house. And I can't imagine there's a single household in Bolton that doesn't have better use of $215 than this.
Thank you for your
Except
opinion.
for if there is a fire and all of
We
a
all
sudden the
get sued.
town is sued for something and they need a permanent record, And where does the money
That's
come
the
from?
argument right there.
Yeah, that's always there.
And what's our insurance for that piece of paper?
15
It's
years.
called covering.
You don't have it. That's the problem, we don't have a backup.
Right?
Three.
Mary and I
Does the
did it at the
historical
same
commission,
time.
would they be utilizing this as well?
No,
No,
Okay.
they're a whole different.
No.
Okay, got it.
no.
Sorry, didn't mean.
No.
Birth certificates, death certificates, things of that nature. They're the primary.
Thank,
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, if you have the county level, then you've got the real estate documents.
okay, but they offsite,
They're not here.
got it.
They're not- No, but they have to do the same thing.
But what we
Thank you.
have
Thank you.
learned over the years is neglect builds up.
Yes,
So
it
we're-
might have been about a
we're learning that
$200,000
again. So,
project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you, John.
I'm gonna volunteer. Maybe we building vaults.
You're gonna go into business?
Vault business.
Building vaults.
It's just a big bomb show.
This is gonna be the year existence.
It was, you know, this hearing had.
I got it.
You're right.
Hello. Madam Chairperson. Thank you. Yeah, I know. Oh, thank you. I was able to print it out. Yeah.
Almost a floor.
Yeah, response to that. Drinking wine when I was going over here.
Oh, my. I can certainly relate to that. I don't know if I'm giving up half my office, I'm gonna have to move mine to some new.
Oh, yeah.
Fire.
Sometimes you gotta plan for the worst though. The big thing.
It's so hard to swallow.
You referenced port, I'm just starting to get to know a little bit about port.
Is that Port Lee?
No.
Port what? Broadening my horizons.
You missed my
You
pun.
know, when you come across your one you really like.
So we welcome now John Lowe. Thank you for coming, John.
Thank you for having me.
And
We have a brief 10 budgets to go
we're
through.
gonna brief 10 budgets. We're gonna give you 10 minutes. Oh, no, you get a half hour.
Thank
These
you.
are always easy, it's all these contracts.
Well,
A lot of it is.
that's true. Do you have a, you wanna just go through
Sure.
the,
I'll
we'll just go through the
I'll
numbers?
just work down my list. First of all, 114, the town moderator's budget, he would like to keep the entire $100.
Even the new one, no, he doesn't even have a chance to, whoever the new person is. No joke.
One down.
One down.
All right.
That was less
Only
than
30 seconds.
We have a discussion.
Selectmen get paid?
Selectmen get paid.
Unbelievable.
Not me.
No, he doesn't
Some
make
take it, some do not. Actually, frequently they don't take it.
Yeah.
I'm giving back to the town.
How many, what's that per house?
9 cents, I think.
About 50 cents.
He's already got the number.
Yeah, got a calculator.
And I am happy to make that contribution to the town year after year.
Thank you very much, Mr.
So
Whiteside.
you can just tell me how you'd like to
Okay,
proceed
so,
through the selectmen's budget.
so we're in the selectmen budgets. Let's talk about the two, the 5,200 first and then 5,301 for the purchase of services.
All right,
What, I know there's nothing specifically contained in it like many of our purchase of service accounts. It's more discretionary, is that right?
it is discretionary. For instance, under purchase of services, we pay the $330 ASCAP fee for Bolton Access cables for the music rights that they have. We pay, on more than one occasion, I've paid for medical evaluations out of it. For one or more personnel, not for myself yet. People returning to work for whatever reason, and we need to find some funds for that, and that can be actually more costly than you might think.
Well, we know from the police it runs, you know, even several $100s.
It can, it certainly can. And there are different types, I mean, I'm not getting into detail, because I don't want to get into
We always seem
anybody's
to
medical
use it.
history. I do.
Essentially, the story though.
I do. There seems to be a purpose for it every year. Sometimes I know what it's going to be, sometimes
It's
I
always
don't.
different, but it's.
Yeah, it's a variety of things,
You
yeah.
know, and I've used very little of it so far this year. In fact, you won't see it until the February ledger, but I used some of it already to hire a consultant to do an energy audit on the town hall, looking to try to save some money there. Got a very good report out of it. I'm debating whether or not I implement some aspects of it. That would eat up some more money this year, if I do. I'm not sure I'm happy with the ROI, but at the very least, if I don't implement their recommendations all at once, then I've got a roadmap for when something goes, I know what I want to replace it with, and I replace it with something more energy efficient than. For instance, you know, there are certainly more energy efficient things than the light that's up above you right now. But so I've got a good roadmap for that, and it was very much worth it. I'm going to, just to give you one other example, something I haven't gotten to yet for this year. Now that we've got the new Badaris furnace in there, and we don't need to replace it. But there's something with the ventilation in there that just isn't right. And going into that room, there's a really offensive odor in there, and it seems to be potentially getting worse. And it will sometimes creep into the town planner's office as well, so I've got to do something about that. So there are always things like that that I run into, you know, and whether that's a purchase of services, whether it's engineering, you know, it's sort of,
Let's get merged together.
yeah, I do tend to dip into both of those. I don't know why. I generally hit purchase of services first, unless it's something that's clear engineering, and I haven't had anything that's clear engineering for a while here, but that is money that is, it is something different every year. It generally gets used. The town administrator needs some discretionary funds in case something comes up, and it's not, in the scheme of things, a lot of money. Obviously, for the actual for FY13, if you roll the two together, is $8,519.
Right. And there was some conversation at the selectmen meeting about possibly using some of these funds. I don't know if it would be in 2014 or 2015 for Persons Park.
Exactly.
So,
and that's something we hadn't anticipated until just a few weeks ago, but
right.
That is definitely where I would look to pay for what, if anything, we end up doing
Engineering or
with
whatever,
Parsons
you know,
Park. Whether
yeah.
we hire a structural engineer to come in and look
Right.
at things, or, you know, there could be a myriad of things that we could use it for. Yeah.
I wouldn't go through the whole.
Okay, supplies, I don't know if you want to go over that
No,
at all,
that's
not
fine.
$150. Dues are the dues for the town planner, and the town to belong to Magic, and to belong to MMA, and that's an every year thing. Under miscellaneous, we pay for hearing notices out of that, actually, for liquor licenses, for employment ads. Some of the recent employment ads that we've done are for the new town planner and for the new outreach worker.
Now, is that there rather than in purchase, is that line item needed?
It's needed somewhere. I mean, if we took the amount and put it into purchase of services or something like that, that would be fine. You know, I'm not.
Does that complicate anything for you, or
No,
for you in
it
any
really
way?
wouldn't.
Well, just get rid of, we don't like miscellaneous line items, they're not appearing anywhere else.
We do, we have
We've had plenty of miscellaneous
police,
that will-
just the other night.
We don't like it if it has no purpose. We could
Well,
make it advertising.
you can make it-
Change that.
Yeah.
Well, is it primarily advertising?
It is primarily advertising, yes.
Why don't we do that? Would that be all right?
That's fine.
Then anything else that might have gone in there could go up to purchase of services.
That's fine. And meetings, we carry $100 in there in case there are meetings that a selectman wants to go to. For instance, if they would like to attend an MMA meeting, we've got something in there for that. One of the monthly ones, I mean, not necessarily the annual.
Right.
The annual, we would probably use purchase of services for that as well. So, any
And
questions?
then wheat. Now, my question on.
And wheat, yes.
And wheat, there had been conversation when they came and did the presentation in front of
Yes.
the selectmen about, is $5,000 the right number? You never heard back from them?
I never heard back from them, and I don't know if they overlooked it or if it was because they thought, when they were in that night, they were getting $4,000 and were surprised to see $5,000. So I don't know if mentally they said, well, we're getting $1,000 more than we thought we were getting, and that's enough, or if they just didn't come back and ask for, I think they were talking, you know, I think we were talking about 6,000 at one point.
Right.
Well, the lady seemed very appreciative of what we gave, and she made a comment, like a off-the-cuff comment that if anything more would be helpful, I mean, but
Yeah,
it was,
good.
so.
That's right. I think they were delighted to see that it really is 5, and that it's not controversial here that we fund it every year.
And Clinton isn't that much more.
Boy.
For the size of the town, I didn't bring the paperwork in there.
Clinton's three times the size,
Yeah,
and
it
I want,
wasn't-
off the top
it's
of
not
my head, I want to
15,000.
say it's somewhere around $12,000. I'm working from memory. It's
Yeah,
been
and
5 years since I've had to look at a Clinton budget, so,
so, yeah, just wanted to make sure you hadn't heard anything and.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
okay.
Did you have a comment about the town, the selectmen budget, or?
Yes, just looking at the numbers, it seems to me we ought to eliminate the engineering services and put $1,000 more into the advisory reserve. In other words, over the 3 years, we've actually used less than $1,000 a year. And it would be pretty easy for Don to come to you guys, and I think that would be a good way to raise $4,000 less in taxes and still cover what historically has needed to be covered.
Well, I mean, I think that there are some identifiable pieces, whether they're $5,000 or,
Why would it be I don't understand.
I don't know where the
Because
1,000
it's-
comes from, because it's
If you look at the
2,200.
actuals for 11, 12, and 13, they average less than $1,000 a year. They were 0 and 12, 147 and 11, and 2,200 and 13.
Yeah, but the 6319
It's
above
over.
the 22 was over.
Well, but the 6319, the 1784, and the 4810, I think average less than 5,000 in the purchase of services line. So if you go for what's actually happened the last 3 years, the two of them together have been about $5,000. So I would leave that with purchase of services and put 1,000 in the advisory reserve, where if something came up in the engineering services area, Don could come to you. And we'd raise $4,000 less of taxes that way.
On an item like this, I defer to the good judgment of the selectmen, considering that it's
That's their budget, yeah.
essentially at the end of the day their budget, and it's, no pun intended, this is really their budget.
Yeah.
This particular line, we have one here, do you have?
I think, you know, Don has talked to me that it makes sense, you know, to keep those line items the way they are. I mean, they have been used in the past, and it's some things that we didn't necessarily anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, as I said, I don't expect anything to happen with Persons Park until FY15, and I'm not predetermining anything, but if one of the solutions was to demolish the building, you demolish it and you remove it, and whether that would include the barn or not, you know, it's two separate structures there. When you get into demolition and removal, you would be amazed at how quickly the price tag adds up, and I would not be at all surprised if that was the direction we went in, that the expense could be somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000.
But wouldn't you do, even if it was, even if it was a year delayed, wouldn't you do potentially some of the scope work?
Oh, I would,
Fiscal
absolutely.
15?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we would. I mean, we wouldn't just knock it down. If we
Yeah.
wanted to evaluate it, we would absolutely hire a structural engineer to come in and evaluate probably both structures, at least the house.
I mean, my feeling at the meeting was that, yeah, we'll wait until spring to do another walkthrough so that the other selectmen could see the property,
Right.
but that the concept that something needs to be done is there.
Right, something needs to be done, and like I said, I walked the property 2 years ago when we did the last time, and it is it was in very bad shape then, and it's had 2 more years to go through. And, you know, it wouldn't be at all surprising that, you know, the ultimate decision is to take it down, to try to rehabilitate something that's that bad off would be, you know, pouring good money after bad. And then also, you know, there may be some engineering work to do relative to, okay, if we tear it down, what do we put in its place in terms of concepts? So I think, you know,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
money's certainly gonna be used this coming fiscal year.
And I hear what you're saying, David, about, you know, looking at the history, but then we get to, I think, a situation that seems to be pretty, that the money has been identified, how it's going to be spent. And I'd leave it to the discretion of the selectmen and the town administrator.
I would also question whether or not it would be an appropriate advisory reserve transfer, because it is already a
We had
potential
planned,
need
yeah.
that we've identified, so
Right.
we could not claim it's an unanticipated
Right.
expense.
Yeah, I think, I like the idea of leaving it the way it is for this year, but I reserve judgment for next year and bring it down closer to the actual moving forward.
Sure.
Yeah, you always have that option, but I think we've identified.
Yeah.
When you identify, I think it's
Something that
help.
we're gonna use the money for.
Yeah.
Connie?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, everyone else's budgets, we've knocked
Yeah.
money off that historically hasn't been used, but since it's been identified use, I would leave it.
Yeah.
Is Parsons Park town owned?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
It's Barron Town Owned Land.
Okay, so town administrator.
Okay, so you tell me what you'd like to pick up on,
Well,
What, oh, sorry, could I just,
Sure.
could you just maybe, for quickness, just tell us which ones are the contract and which ones aren't? This one you can go down.
above the line?
yeah,
Yeah.
other lines, salaries contract.
Above the line, salaries contract, hearing officer is, it's not in my contract, but it is since I have been appointed the hearing officer by statute, that's required. Wages that's not good English. Wages is Linda. Longevity is Linda. I'm not eligible for longevity. Deferred compensation is my contract, and disability life insurance is my contract.
Okay. So I think that's that.
And purchase of services was stricken previously.
Mm-hmm.
Training, we have an opportunity to reduce a little bit here. I do try to be proactive where I can be. $1,850 is the cost, was the cost for when I originally had to go off and get certified in procurement. And I just went through,
Bless you.
I just went through recertification this year. And actually, you won't see that on the ledger yet. I think the charge is coming in this month. That was much less than I thought it would be. That was, I think it was $350, something like that. And I don't need to get recertified for another 2 years. So the FY 17 that I have to get recertified. So I would like to keep a little bit in there for training in case something, a good opportunity comes up. But I would be comfortable in reducing the $1,850 to $1,000 for 15.
Okay, thank you.
Phone reimbursement is also contractual. That's part of my contract. I don't know if you want to move it up above the line. The other line will leave it there, but that is part of my contract also.
Is that a perfect spot?
Okay?
It's new, right?
It is new, brand new, yep. Supplies, $1,000, basically, that's ink cartridges, business cards, general office supplies. We will be doing more ordering before the end of the year. I'm pretty comfortable keeping that number where it is.
Let me ask you, because this came up from a member here. Is there supply purchases?
Mhm.
Do we buy as a town?
We don't overall, I mean, we do if we can. For instance, if we're looking at, oil. I mean, we're all under the same oil contract.
Mhm.
What we haven't done, and, well, I think, I want to say that we buy all our paper from the same place, because I think, I want to say that we get that off a state contract. I think, I wouldn't swear to that.
I mean, copy paper that?
Copy paper, yes.
Uh-huh.
If we don't, I would want to take a look at that. I thought we had, but that I wouldn't swear to. Yeah, I mean, we should be trying to consolidate purchasing where we can. We don't have a lot of opportunities for it, but if we do have some, if we have some opportunities I haven't looked at yet, then I should be looking at them.
Okay,
I agree.
mean, we encourage that, because we've seen so many, it's a cost that keeps going up.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. And so, yes, I think that's something that,
I'd almost want to consolidate supplies by building into at least one line, and you'd have some efficiencies and
I think what,
economies of scale.
I mean,
we could have
this-
the equivalent of a 200 account.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
For supplies,
for-
yeah.
Yeah.
So that-
Under your name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That way, people aren't borrowing from each other, and,
Mhm.
it's more controlled. You can probably buy better in bulk and have a main supply cabinet.
Actually, what I should do is just say that I'm gonna, under my list of things to do in FY 15, I should be looking to evaluate that and come back with a suggestion for FY 16.
We'd appreciate that, that would be great.
Okay.
Don, I remember years ago when I was putting myself through school, that I did a tour duty with the state in a park and recreation, and, you know, they've got state vehicles, and, you know, whenever we had to fill up with gas, we had this specific card, and we went to a state installation. Is there something like that for a municipality, so that everyone in town could have, you know, you've gone out, and not that you can negotiate gas, but just the fact that everyone around town has got a card, and it's hitting the town of Bolton account. Something like, is that a possibility? And
We have, to a certain extent, we have the inverse of that. We do have a town credit card. And there are times when it's appropriate for someone to go off and make a purchase using the town credit card, but that doesn't give us any leverage as far as volume discounts or anything like that. It's just a different way to do a purchase, so someone isn't, I mean, you know, we have a town credit card.
yeah,
That's maybe not the most efficient way to do it, but that.
But also, what's the, I mean, forgive me, so, corporate, I know corporate's different than municipalities, but in my office, if I need to order a box of pens for myself, I need to, it needs to be written up, and
Right.
it's electronic, but someone needs to approve it. You know, I would think that we want to get to some level of control and oversight at some point, to your point on going off and doing some thinking.
No, I think I should look at some opportunities like that, I agree.
Not that there's wasteful spending, but it's
But there's ways of control, yeah.
No, I don't think there's wasteful spending, but if there's a way that we can save $1 somewhere, then we should be doing it.
So, Don, would you feel comfortable, I mean, looking over what this actually has been, the supply line has been not $1,000 for several years. And at this point this year, you've spent,
$624.
oh.
And we've got more
you're-
to, and we've got more to spend.
Exception.
You're
Yeah.
more current
just
than
a-
I am, I'm sorry.
Because in 12, you spent 348, and 13, you spent 397, so this is maybe a catch-up year.
Yeah, it may be a catch-up year, but this year's run rate, which is what we look at,
Yeah.
we're pretty much on track for the $1,000.
No. So, but it's good, you have something else to put on your list of to-dos.
That's fine, I like to
Yeah.
be busy.
We can store the extra supplies in the vault.
There you go. No, we have these file cabinets.
My office is not fire rated.
Well,
So,
probably was a
it's on
plan there.
purpose.
Yeah. That's what we both.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
There's a
the
lot
thing
of
I was
love there.
saying. Yeah.
In-
So, am I on the right?
In-state travel.
In-state travel.
I've been exceeding every year and basically make it up with a little bit of shortfall that I have under meetings.
Is this your Minuteman and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna be on that for
Ever.
a while.
Through FY 17, at least it looks
They'll
like.
never let him go. Why would they let him go? He's doing 99% of the work.
Why wouldn't we think about adjusting that?
Yeah.
What's the run right now?
Well, for some reason I have December, you have January there,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, right now, I'm at, for a $750 budget, I've already spent $673. I've
Okay.
got $76 left for the year, which obviously is blown, but again, that I can make up out of meetings for this year.
You just lowered meeting. Or was it
No, I
meeting?
didn't-
Oh,
no, I
no.
didn't
Oh,
get
I'm
there
sorry.
yet.
Oh, here, I'm sorry, okay, 500.
What I was saying was that I
Meetings were
do,
over last year.
now, meetings is used for instance, the annual MMA meeting that I go to in Boston. That's $150, right there. Any MMA meeting, any MMMA meeting that I go to during the year is at least $30 a crack. So, I think I go to at least 3, maybe more, depending on the subject matter. You know, I go if it's an interesting agenda, and I don't if it's not. So, you know, it could
Well,
be-
last year it was 635. This year you haven't gone, but,
I actually have, it just hasn't been billed yet,
okay.
because I went to the annual already, and I went to a December MMA meeting, and I went to a January MMA meeting, so there's
Well, I mean, you gave us back the, $850 in the purchase of services. Do you think you're gonna need more in in-state travel that you can't make up in meetings?
I think I can make it up in meetings. I
Okay.
think if I juggle the two, I think I can handle it.
Okey-doke.
Okay.
But that just begs the question, should we just take 250 out of meetings and put it into?
I would say if you wanted to take 200 out of meetings and make it 300 and put it into in-state travel, I wouldn't have a problem with that. It might be a better, more accurate way to capture it.
We get a run rate.
I think that's a great idea.
So
More
we're
accurate way
taking
to calculate
200 out
expense.
of there and setting it up to be 950 up in, okay.
Okay, legal services. And while we're talking about it, I have my transfer request for this evening. We have left in that account, yep, we have very little left in that account. I'm not cutting my page there. We've got less than $1,000 in that account, working from memory. I just don't have it in front of me here.
Does anybody have the January,
I thought I had
I
it.
didn't find it, it's been
I wonder
December.
if I misplaced it, but anyway, we have,
I left mine.
I want to say, and I'm not far off, I think I've got $700 left. And for a round number, I've got $700 left. And while I don't have any legal bills going into this warrant
You
for
don't want
next
to give
week.
me all this.
I'm sorry?
You don't want to give me all this.
Oh, God, I didn't realize that was all it said.
Does the 10,000 cover expected legal bills to review this upcoming warrant too? Or do we get billed in the next?
I don't believe, I would have to have everything fall just right for this 10,000 to cover everything. I mean, this is a minimum that I think I need. I think we're probably going to need more. I know that I'm going to need $3,000 to $4,000 left, probably $3,000 for town council, just to get through annual town meeting. I've got probably at least $3,000 more, if not more, and it could easily be more, from Labor Council. And I've got probably $3,000 to $3,000 minimum to go towards the cable committee, because the cable committee's legal fees are coming out of legal this year because they're renegotiating the 10-year contract.
I'm sorry, I was looking at, I don't have this. So you had three, so this is what the 10,000 is going to be used for?
Yes, I mean, that's just what I know about right now.
So
I mean,
can you just tell me again, 3,000 cable?
I'm using round numbers
Oh,
here.
that's fine.
But I'm saying it's probably about $3,000 for the cable committee for additional legal fees. I'm saying a minimum of $3,000 to $4,000 from town council, for largely for town meeting, but there are always planning issues that come up, planning board issues that come up. And $3,000 to $4,000 for labor, and I'll be extremely lucky if I can do our labor, if I can limit our labor council to $4,000. I'm actually I'm not at all certain that I can do that, but I'd rather ask for $10,000 now, and then if it looks like I need $3,000 or $5,000 more, come back.
So where have we gone wrong? I mean, I know we've talked about this a long time. I mean, if you look at
It's never
12,
been through, yeah.
12 is 50, 13 was 59, 14, if we give you this 10, it's 45.
Right.
So why do we believe that 35 is the right number
yeah.
next year? We probably don't, right?
We don't, the only reason I left it at 35 was because I couldn't look you in the eye and tell you what a better number was, just looking at what I'm anticipating for FY15. Knowing what I think I know about what's going to happen in FY15, if I told you $45,000, that would be a rough guess. It might be closer to actual than 35, but I was, since I try to live by my own directive, to level fund, and since I really couldn't give you a strong number for 45, I decided to go with 35, because I can look you in the eye and say, there are things that weren't anticipated in here.
For the past 3 years, though?
Well, because it's different things every 3 years.
Yeah, but it
That's
just
right.
shows
What
that
do you-
we've always had something different.
So we do always have something different. I
What
mean,
do-
believe me, I'm not disagreeing with
When
that.
you set the 35,000, what do you, well, you must be an idea of what that's going to be spent on, how much
I do.
for town meeting?
I do as well as I can estimate, but, we have projects in town. I'm not gonna single out any developer, but we have projects in town that require legal review. We always have labor issues. When I say labor issues, reasons for which we need to bring in labor counsel on certain things.
I'm just not sure why we'd leave it at 35, knowing that.
Yeah, the problem is if,
Kicking ourselves in the
yeah,
foot every year, and it's almost like, if we leave it at 35, you should make advisory reserve 110, you know what I mean? Because we're almost guaranteed to take 10 out every year. I'm not faulting you
No,
in
no,
this,
you're
I'm
right.
just saying, if we're trying to get reasonable budgeting, I'd be comfortable with moving that amount up, given the run rate. It's an easy decision.
And I actually don't, I don't use legal counsel until I have to, too. I handle as much as I can, and believe me, I actually do think that 45,000 would be a more accurate number, but I can't quantify that by telling you X, Y, Z is going to happen next year.
But
I just-
also, we should just chime in that overall, costs for legal services, both town council and labor, have gone down dramatically.
Oh, really?
I mean, it used to be, we used to budget much more than that.
Oh, I thought you meant but their rates
Rates-
probably.
No,
No, that's not what you
I'm
meant.
saying-
not going down.
What we had previously spent was much higher.
Yeah.
And we've managed to bring that down for a variety of circumstances. One is that we don't necessarily bring them in at the last minute, and, some things have gotten better, but, to Don's point, in the last couple of years, there have been some extenuating circumstances where we had to get labor council involved for a protracted period of time with something which was really unanticipated. Obviously, the union contracts took much longer to negotiate, which involved, again.
And I'm just starting them up again now. And I think in FY09, when I was hired, I think that, I want to say the labor line was, the legal line was at 45 or so, and then it came down to 35. It was either 40 or 45, I don't remember which it was.
But it came down because it had the past
20
hadn't demonstrated.
yeah,
it.
and in
Now
2011, it was 35,000, and that seemed to be the last time it was at 35,000.
We at least show whether we're always right, we try to take it down, and if it makes, so we're equal opportunity on, I think, on some of this, but.
Yeah.
I think, if we just look at things the way we look at any other line item, FY12 is 49,
Yeah.
FY13 is 59, we've already 10 grand
So
and
we're
rising through, so
45.
call it, we'll probably end up hitting 50 grand this year, so 45 would not be an unreasonable number.
Comments from the committee first? Okay.
In my experience as a selectman, the labor costs seem to go up more after the 1-year bargaining time had been passed on, and it was, when you were having trouble that you had to bring the lawyers in. So I wonder if there might not be less lawyer costs related to labor in the coming fiscal year, since that'll be sort of the first year of negotiating these
It takes
contracts.
always 3 years?
No, it doesn't always
Yeah.
take 3 years. It took 2 years for this contract, and for the contract we just finished, roughly 2 years. I don't want to speculate on labor relations, I really don't.
And the other aspect
Especially on
of
camera.
that was, we had that one really unusual situation that,
That unusual situation hasn't gone away yet.
okay.
Okay, so everybody's comfortable,
Oh, whether it's 5 or
40
10, I mean, it's gotta be something.
It's gotta be something, because it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable going up by 5.
5?
Yeah.
45.
I would go 45.
45, 45, 45.
45 once.
Do I hear 50?
Twice.
No.
Sold.
45,000. I think that makes sense.
All right,
Okay,
thank
what
you.
what do we got?
192 for town hall.
Okey-doke.
And purchase of services there is running pretty much, again, there's a charge for, no, I got the right one, yes I am. Expected to see a charge on there, I guess it'll be coming in this month, but I expected to see a charge on there. We had to put a new battery in the town car.
Still running, huh?
It is. It actually is. Actually, it's running much better now with a new battery. We did have to go out and remember to start it every few days, and now we don't have to do that anymore. Heating is running pretty much right.
Even with the new, we're not getting any real benefit from a new boiler.
We're not, no, not like I expected to see. How much more oil we're going to need between now and the end of the year, I can't say, and, obviously, you have cycles where, one load of oil is quite a bit of money. So whether one year, we didn't get it in, before the year ended, or, well, we didn't get oil over the summer, but, we don't get a like number of deliveries every year. I am surprised that it's not lower. I've actually said that to Harold. I am surprised that it's not lower. We also have had,
It's cold, it's colder.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been very
certainly,
cold, yeah.
It's been unusually
Cut the
cold.
snow.
Same rate from year to year either, is it?
It's more,
Oil prices are up.
more expensive.
Really?
Right.
Yeah,
So
more
that-
more
They are.
expensive this year.
Hey, Randy, between you and I,
It
we
probably-
go within just the
Really?
curves, right?
The Buderus curve.
That's
you
right,
have to do
that's
that
right.
easily.
We're
It
experts.
probably is more efficient, you're right. It's been much colder. I don't have a sheet here that's showing usage year over year. I actually do have that in my office somewhere, but I think we need to level fund it.
That's right.
Electric,
Just one sec. Do you have a comment on, Tom, about?
The oil companies use a K-factor, which takes into account temperature, and so they calculate using that
Degree
when
days.
they have to
Degree
refill
days,
the
yeah.
tanks. But you can look at that over time and see if you're getting more efficient or not. And so that would be a data point to look over a few years
Mhm.
to see whether that you're getting more efficient.
Even though the dollars may be the
The
same.
dollars can be going up, the temperature can vary, but it's what they use, and a building will have a certain K-factor.
And that's what they use
Right,
to
you can just
to
call
know
them
when
and
to
ask
send,
them.
to estimate
They'll
when
give
they,
you all
to send the truck to
so many
to
years
refill
ago.
it.
yeah.
Is that-
I actually have that.
right?
When
That
I'm on
was
the
on
energy
that
committee,
thing.
Just change the rate and charge more.
the energy committee has been very good about, well, Ted Kirshner specifically has been very good about meeting with me on a quarterly basis and giving me graphs, and so I am graphing, well, they are graphing, not I, the usage year over year, and there was a question about, now that I think about it, about why we weren't seeing a little bit more, what appeared to be more efficiency with the furnace, and then I think we got to the point where there was not a like number of deliveries and so forth, so it wasn't year over year, it wasn't apples to apples, so, but it didn't get down to degree days or anything like that, it was just trying to chart usage over year. Electric, I am pleased that we are where we are because we're in better shape than other buildings. I can tell you that the expenses, that the cost is already coming down as I anticipated it would.
Good.
It's not where I want to see it yet. I'm going to be having a meeting in early April to look at what I could do to hedge on the price for the rest of the year and for FY15. I'm actually looking to advise the library on what they should be looking at for expenses for the rest of the year, and I haven't completed an analysis of that yet. Oh, I'm sorry, now I'm gonna correct myself, looking at repairs is where I had the car, the
okay,
expense
that's
for the
the
battery.
battery.
My mistake. Don't know why I thought that. Telephone, now, we have an opportunity here on the telephone. You may or may not recall that about a year and a half or so ago, I hired a consultant, which I paid for under the purchase of services, to do a complete analysis of our telephone, not the telephone system, but our telephone contracts. Can we improve the contracts? Can we, well, just to evaluate the whole infrastructure. We found that the town had lines we didn't use that we were paying for. We had contracts that weren't cost effective. So we saved quite a bit of money. And I said that last year, but I said, let's go with the number I've got for now, because I don't know when the rubber meets the road whether or not we're really gonna see the cost savings that were projected. Looking at the way that we're running right now, on a $10,800 budget and projecting out to the end of the year, I would be comfortable cutting that budget down to $6,000 for next year. I'm comfortable saying that we can bring it down $4,800.
We're comfortable saying that we'll let you do that.
Yeah, and that consultant was well.
It was well
Well
worth it,
worth it.
it absolutely was. Trying to save money wherever we can.
Now, is that anything what he was looking at useful anyplace else in town? I mean, well, it was everything else is new.
It was townwide.
Oh, it was townwide.
I mean, it didn't include, there were no opportunities at the library
Or public
or
safety.
public safety. But yes, she did a townwide evaluation.
Okay, good.
I think also just, and we're not for discussion tonight, but when the public safety building was constructed, my understanding is that we would have the option at some point for other town buildings to tap into that phone system, so that in case, say, of a emergency situation, Don could take his phone in his office and go to the public safety building and plug it in, and that phone would ring in the public safety building. So I don't know if we've ever done anything looking at that. I know they're still shaking the systems down at the
I think
public
that's,
safety
yeah.
building. But there was some opportunity to take advantage.
Oh, it's good, especially that's where the command center is, and you see.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And if, for whatever reason, I don't spend all of purchase of services and engineering in FY15, one of the things that we need to start looking at is upgrading the phone system itself.
Here.
Yes,
Yeah.
here, DPW, library, I mean, to have it as efficient as, well, to be able to have everybody on the same system. And there would be an opportunity to evaluate that too. And to do the evaluation, obviously not the actual implementation, which the last time I looked into that, which probably is at least a couple of years ago, at the time, I think the estimate, the rough estimate was it would cost maybe 20 grand to upgrade the system. So, and that was, things were really lean back then, so I knew it wasn't the time to be looking at it. But I think I should at least get evaluation done, and if it's not done in 15, it should be done in 16, the evaluation, to see what the opportunity is there.
Okay.
And again, supplies and capital outlay.
Postage is the meter, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's just, looks like it's always 30, that's what you put in it?
That's right. So we put in it, I mean, I'm not worried about running out, I mean, just because we only have $86 left, we still have a lot of postage on the meter that hasn't been utilized.
And supplies is gonna come into the,
Yeah, I mean, supplies, it is miscellaneous supplies, it's Belmont Springs, it's copier paper, it's, various things. It supports it may support the veterans agent at times, because I don't think he's got much for supplies in his budget.
well, I think we were, no, we haven't,
Some more, don't we?
no, that's actually an item we're gonna add to. We're gonna discuss
Okay.
about adding some postage for his mailings and also for, I don't know, I'll get back to you to talk about it.
Okay.
Remind me of capital outlay.
Capital outlay is the expense of the copier and the rental of the postage meter.
Oh, okay.
That's, in 13, you spent 57.65.
I'm sorry, where are you?
2013.
2013 on capital outlay.
Yes, and that would be, why?
Looked like that, well, the budget for 13 was only 2,400. Did you just have a new acquisition? Did you acquire something or upgrade or either the copier or
I
the,
think we got the new copier, I think, in 13.
and then maybe that budget was 2,400, but then,
I don't, I can't tell you off the
So,
top
but
of
it's
my head.
4,500, the contractual cost of renting the
That's right.
copy of the postage meter. Okay,
yeah, and it
that's
looks
right.
like that's about where they're at.
Yep.
Don, before we move, the propane for the town hall generators in town buildings?
It should be in town buildings, yes.
David, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I didn't bring it up Tuesday night because things were running so late, but the public safety telephone bill lines look about the same as town hall. In other words, the fiscal 13 expenditure was quite a bit lower than the budget. And I wonder if there isn't something similar there, and if there isn't maybe $4,000 that could come out of that. Because the budget was around $20,000, and the actual in fiscal 16 and fiscal 13 was $16,000. So,
Well, I'll raise that question.
yeah, maybe. they may have had some efficiency too. Or it could be related to what Don did, because he did take a look at the public safety.
No, did you look at public
It was-
safety?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
It
you
was-
did,
yeah,
okay.
It was townwide. But they really had minimal opportunity in the library or public safety,
Okay.
but it did include,
Somehow they managed to come in $4,000 under their budget.
I'll take a look at that. Thank you, David. Okay, insurance is insurance.
building insurances. I mean, what you see here is we've gotten the quotes from Murphy.
Okay.
So what we have here are actual
And the
quotes.
boiler comes off because we replaced it. We don't have to have boiler insurance anymore, right?
Yes,
We don't have any steam boilers in
right,
any of the town buildings anymore.
that's
Why
right.
was it confused?
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
What's the one in the schools?
The one. in the
Well,
school-
it's also, I wonder if it was even being used,
It is but it would be in their insurance.
because
Oh,
of,
okay, got it.
In the district, but it's a good point, that is a boiler.
so there's a budget, no expense even last year.
Okay, and town
Oh,
reports,
that's
I think I did it last year.
we're just, 195 town reports, we're working on the town reports now, we are level funding it. I will tell you that an opportunity, one opportunity that we took that paid off was when I came here, we were doing 400 or 500 copies of the town report, at least. Now we're doing 2. And I was looking at lowering.
200 or
200.
It's more popular than that.
And I'm probably going to do 150 in FY15, but the reason I'm not looking at lowering the budget is because, well, 2 reasons. One, there's going to be more pages in it this year because of the 275th, and there's going to be more pictures in it this year, which makes it a little more costly. So, but next year for FY16, I think we can bring it down a little bit, because I'm trying to get away from as much paper as possible. We think more people may want a copy of the annual report for this year because it's got the 275th in it.
And then your postage probably doesn't need to be that high.
The postage actually does, well, it does for 15, I think.
Okay, again,
Because
for the same reason.
For the same reason, right.
Okay.
Do we mail, who
Who do we mail it to?
mail it to?
Who do we mail it to is a good question. Oh, I'm sorry, the postage under here is actually tied to our warrants that we mail.
Oh,
It's
so
not.
it's not, okay, so this is postage warrants.
Okay, so.
No, we don't mail any town meeting reports.
So we had a.
I mean, town
So does the
reports.
purchase of services include the printing of the warrants as well, then?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just
It does.
it's town reports.
Town reports
but slash
and the warrant,
warrants.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, got it.
So Don, are you required to print the town report? To have hard copy on hand?
We are, yes, you do have to have some number of hard copies on hand, yes, we do, for the records. It's an annual required record.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I guess, what's the number then? Is it 150? Is it?
Well, that's what I'm playing with. I mean, we get demand every year. I mean, we do have people walk in and want a copy of the annual report.
You can't give them a link to the
No.
URL?
If they want a hard copy of the report, they get a hard copy of the report. It's their,
Other people don't have computers.
right.
I mean, you can't assume that they.
It is a requirement. I've been as aggressive as I'm comfortable with, and I do think in FY15, well, I want to see how 150 goes for this year.
Could be a collector's item.
It's possible that we can get done. I probably,
I understand that.
Maybe two was the right, maybe two was the right.
If they're given a link, then they can go figure out how they want to print it, on what type
It's
of paper they
100
want.
pages, though.
It's on their dime.
I can't tell them to go to
So
the link. I can't. But I can get as economical as possible on the number that we produce.
Yeah.
I think we should do like those discs with the kids.
Don't
have
bring
the-
them to the meeting.
Oh, yeah, the bluebird.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
Well,
like
actually,
microfiche.
that's a good point, though. It may be more efficient to put it on disc someday and hand out discs instead.
And
Not everybody has computers.
That's true now, but I'm just saying.
And I should say, if you're looking at opportunity costs, the cost of the annual report is about $1,400. So it's, It's the warrant more than the annual report that's the expense.
Are you budgeting for a special town meeting?
I am one.
There's no way we should ever have more than one in 1 year.
No, that's why they're special, and they shouldn't be every year.
Well, thank you. I know they are in this town.
Well, we've had like two, we've had two in the past 5 years, I think. I think since I've been here, we've had two.
I think somebody wrote an article about that once in the paper.
And we've had very few special. Oh, is that you? Oh, that sounds good. Did you have a quick comment?
Just that I like the hard copy annual report, and I think even though I can go on links and so forth, when I'm doing a study comparing Harvard versus Bolton versus Stowe, it's a lot easier to have hard copies.
No, when you find, if you did 150 and then you found there was demand and you found the supply shrinking, is there a trigger point where you look and say, oh my God, I only have 10 left, I gotta go out for version 2? Or
No, I probably, when the last one went out the door, you know, I'd probably say, okay, maybe we gotta get a few more in and then see what the economies of scale are for a reprint, but no, I'd have to have an empty shelf before I went out and, or an empty box before I went out and did more.
Okay, moving on. Sewer you have?
I do have sewer, yes. And here's where I think we need to go up some. We're budgeted at $6,900. 2 of the last 3 years have been $8,000. This year, we are going to run, I believe we are going to run over. And I spoke to Bill Cleary today to try to sort out, you know, what we should be looking at. Do we have any special maintenance coming up? And he said we didn't have anything particularly special coming up, but he did feel that the run rate that gets us to $8,000 is the right run rate, and he agreed with my assessment that we should bump it up to $8,000.
Are we still comfortable with the sharing agreement and the gallon
We are.
personality that we used?
We pay 15% of the invoice, so it's an 85-15 split. That seemed to be, it seemed to be reasonable to the selectmen when we negotiated it. I agreed with the selectmen. I think the district would have liked to have seen more, but, you know, they acquiesced, and I think 85-15 is a reasonable
Yeah, there's no
split.
reason to change that
No,
at this point.
I don't think so.
So that would be 8,000 for 2015.
Yeah. They can find it on their.
So would you come back, then do you have to come back for a transfer?
I may need to transfer at the end of the year. If I do, I mean, it won't be till June. I mean, we'll have enough to get us through May. If we catch a break, we catch a break. I don't think we will. If you take a literal run rate, I know we're at 7,300, and I think it's, and you can't take a literal run rate
No.
because that's not the same monthly, so.
The flow's not the same.
The flow is not the same, that's right. And there are chemicals that get added at certain times of the year. I know there's gonna be another chemical charge that we haven't seen yet, so, which is why I think $8,000 is a good number.
Is there any, the treatment plant is getting older, and is there any major maintenance that needs to be done at certain intervals with that?
We talked about that, and there is no major maintenance plan for FY15. I don't know about beyond that.
And if we had to do a major maintenance, I don't know, major being over 10, I don't know, some big portion of money, would that get split with the schools as well, or would we be on the hook since we own it?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I suspect, since we own it,
We'd be on the
we'd be on the hook for it, but I don't want to volunteer us to be on the hook for it.
Break that same agreement.
And how old is that?
How old is the?
10 years? It's
Maybe.
8,
How old is
10
this?
years old?
Yeah, I didn't think it was, seemed to be.
I don't know how old that is. I mean, the force main is about 5 years old. We did that the first year I got here, but I don't know how old that is. That is before my time.
I'm gonna say about 10.
Yep.
Easily.
There's fewer and fewer things that I can say I wasn't involved with when it happened.
I remember when I was on the planning board when they were the cost to do the first iteration got us almost as much as doing the treatment plan. That's when we switched. So that was a while ago.
How much was the treatment plant, Stan, do you remember to put in?
I believe the treatment plant cost us around $2 million.
So needless to say, major maintenance probably wouldn't be cheap. right?
But what's,
It will be important to
what,
find out about that.
it would.
Yeah.
I mean, right, if we've got this, $2 million asset and, look, that'd be important to know when's a good time for a 50,000-mile overhaul, or
Or even
If it doesn't happen, yeah,
Exactly.
it doesn't happen. That's something you can follow up on, to do?
Yeah.
To do what, I'm not sure.
Well, to find, I mean, is there,
look up
is
our
there,
warranty on the treatment plant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
see how long, I mean, it was, what
Needs
other
an oil
treatment
change.
plants?
Well, yeah, when the oil
Like,
changes.
is it 25 years before you have to do anything? Is it, next, I mean, it's almost like you need to know the 5-year plan on
I mean,
that.
the good thing is it's running way below capacity.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is good, so it's not being taxed.
Yeah. Sure some people would like to plug
I
into it.
thought it was 10+ years old, is that right?
Something like
that
that.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. And
insurances,
we're, well.
are we there? Where are we?
Workers' comp is
Oh,
workers'
workers'
comp.
comp, yeah.
It is what it is, and
Yeah.
it's basically flat, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then
That's
Yeah.
912 for those
And
that are
then the-
following.
the-
945 is other insurance.
945 is other insurance, and these numbers, again, are straight from our provider.
So the one question I have is this deductible line. I mean, you have to use it. You end up, I mean, not that you're using the deductible, but you're using the dollars in the budget because you're over by
Mhm.
that amount. I mean, for the deductibles, you just never utilize that?
We plan for just like your insurance stuff, when you get in a crash, you pay the first 1,000. The aggregate sum of all of our policies say that we would pay $3,300, or it's prudent to budget, but the question is it one accident,
Yeah.
do we know what we're budgeting for? Right, I think that's.
It's just, yeah, I know, but the deductibles, well, 1,000 was used last year, nothing's being used this year. I mean,
We probably have $1,000 deductible, it was one accident last year, and then we typically maybe budget for 3, I don't know.
I don't know, that's why I'm just trying to get a feel for it, because they spent all of the money, and the 3,000 that's not spent is covering the expenditures for the insurances.
You can look into it.
Yeah, I can look into it. I mean, yes, it is $1,000 deductible. I think we had, well, I don't think I know, we had an accident in one of the recent snowstorms. So we could have 1,000 right there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We budget a number based on, probability, exactly.
Okay.
If we go ahead with the new police cruiser, new vehicles cost more than old to insure, I'm assuming, but I don't know how it
There's-
works with police, et cetera. Would this line
57,
move?
45.
I would expect it would move. I don't think it would move significantly, but I would expect it would move.
Okay.
And I could actually, I mean, we could, if we knew what we were gonna, once we know what, if anything, we're gonna purchase, then I could, we could get a hold of it and ask them what the move is for the insurance.
You just don't want, if it's a chance to adjust it and not be short, then you run the risk of
Well, then
it.
you have the same question with the fire apparatus.
Right. But then you run the risk of putting it
Yeah.
in and then having something happen to the cruiser that where it comes out and then this is in and, but I'm just being thoughtful about, or trying to be thoughtful about how we put
Well,
it.
I mean,
Come back to us.
it's a cause and effect. I mean, yes, I mean,
Yeah.
if you get a new cruiser, then yeah.
You're just gonna go have, okay. No,
But I
my,
guess what I'm saying is the cruiser's in the budget right now. So the
well, the
insurance,
cruiser, yes, the cruiser is in the
so the
budget.
insurance for that cruiser probably should be in the budget
Should be
too,
too.
unless there is a change.
Yes, that's right.
I guess that's the only assumption.
David?
We bought a cruiser last year, so presumably everything's moving down one to be less expensive to cover, so the new one,
You might take
yeah,
that out.
so I don't think it's gonna make much difference.
Yeah, no,
You're gonna be covering a fleet of the same age as you did before.
Yeah, that's true.
Theoretically, if you do one every year, your
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much steady state.
Yeah, yeah.
However, if you took it out of the budget, your insurance might go down as well as saving the $40,000, so,
No, I'm sure we'll read about that.
and you will.
So I don't know if you have any other
Well,
questions for me, but
Marty, you're here for
Or
Why
when
are
you
you
meet,
here?
when you meet with capital planning?
When we meet with Cal
It's a public meeting.
No, I know. No, the only reason I raised that question, and I didn't know this, is that we had.
love to be here.
Yes. We had a note, I had a note from you today, and I didn't know if that's what you were in
No,
for.
no.
Okay, that Margie
Capital
sent a
plan.
note, and I didn't know if you've seen this.
I have, yes.
Yeah. And
Now,
so this,
there's actually a word missing in that. It
It's probably not.
It should say does not,
not,
that's
does
right.
not. That's it, we would have a hard time, but we worked through, and people haven't seen this, because I got this late and I didn't send it out, so.
Is there anything else you need from me
No, I just didn't know if you wanted to be in on that discussion, no.
on,
What's gonna be happening with this going out to bid,
well,
and
Margie and I have already discussed it, so,
she can,
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know if it needs to go out to bid because we don't know if those vendors are on the state bid list or not.
so what happened was, you can go.
Okay.
You are just.
He's packed up, he's left, he's taking his lunch bag, he's all ready to go.
asking you if he could go.
I know, he did ask me, I just didn't know if you had.
But the answer about going out to bid is we don't know because we don't know which, if any of those vendors are on the state bid list.
Okay, thank you. No.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
So just, I know we're way off, but since I brought this up, is that the EMS software, the company that we had, that Margie thought the purchase was gonna be made through for the $20,000 article from last year for the software, they're not gonna be able to do the work. So, and this took a long time to find out, and a lot of people to go through.
We were like ready
to buy it.
and we found out, so it's, you guys had asked me last time why we hadn't pulled the trigger on that.
Right.
And now it's gonna be even longer because
We were
we're
advised to
gonna
not
have
pull the trigger by the company.
Yeah, they said don't do it. Yeah, but they can't service, they couldn't service the,
Yeah.
So then the question is the 20 adequate for company B now, right?
No.
Yeah, we don't know. We're 2 weeks into, like, we found out about this 2 weeks ago. From one preliminary company, we're gonna be just fine money-wise. And I haven't looked at the other company.
That need to go, or you asked the bid, but
Yeah.
would that need to go out? Or can we just move down the old bid list to number 2?
No, that would be.
It's a whole new thing.
It's a whole new project, yeah, right. Too much time has passed.
A lot of time has passed. When did you go out to bid? It must have been right.
Well, we didn't go out to bid for this other one because it was a product of something that we already owned. So we didn't have to go out to bid.
And then how does that just change the microdots discussion we had last night? Like, that's just gonna add to the,
No, they use a different, they're using a different company.
It's got nothing to do with microdots.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
even though they're kind of related because they're emergency management kind of things,
Okay.
software, but hers is a totally different company.
I'm sure it relates somewhat to the server, though. Server would,
Yeah, microdots would help initiate the
Store
whole,
it.
install everything.
Right, they would do the install, and that's pretty much it.
so it's somewhat related, but not to the
Not to the-
10,000
yeah,
that we were talking
20.
about. 20 was the server.
Oh, there's the 10.
It was an increased microdots
Right.
work.
Right.
Right.
And that was included in there, because so if they had to increase the work, but when I went for this last year, I sat down with Lorraine, and she knows about the project, so anything that would, the initial install would come out of the project plan, any kind of maintenance she's already accounted for.
And there's no time, you have no timetable at this point, so just
No,
keep
I
us
just-
informed.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So I just
Okay.
wanted to.
I just wanted to bring it up to the committee, because you said
Heads up
that.
as to why we're not pulling the trigger again.
Mhm.
We tried.
Mhm.
But as long as I'm here, I would like, since microdots
Oh.
came up, I would like to reiterate that in no way is that EMD software responsible for a $10,000 increase for microdots. That's no correlation whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it was a confusing conversation. It did seem that was the driver, but you did make that statement. I think Lorraine did it by the end as
Mhm.
well.
Do you want to sign the, or vote on the
You need the dollars.
transfer request? Well,
What you asking
Yeah,
for?
we're in here.
$10,000.
$10,000. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve a transfer request from the advisory reserve to the 151-5200 legal account for $10,000.
Second.
Second, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm going to try really hard not to come back in May or June, but I can't promise.
We always enjoy seeing you, Don.
It's always a memorable experience for me as well, so.
I'm not gonna sign this right now because
That's fine.
I'll bring it in.
All right, so I really can go now.
You now?
Good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, good night. Okay. Sorry, this is for the whole, this is the most people we've had in here, I think, ever. Sorry we're running so late. Pretty typical. Fire, come on in. John Menser. So, I assume you have the transfer request. Okay, so we're back to discuss the Jaws of Life cutters, I don't know all the proper terminology, request that you had. And at the last time that you were here a couple weeks ago, asked you to talk to the vendor and see if there was a way of getting an upgraded loaner.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and what was the result of that conversation?
Excuse me, I'm just getting over.
Oh, God, everybody, if we get out of here not deathly ill, it's gonna be amazing.
I did speak with the vendor. He would be more than happy to give us an upgrade of a loaner if he had one available. If he doesn't have anything available, what we have is the best he has to offer us right now. So,
Okay, so, that being said, we are looking at 4 different possibilities. I think we clarified that.
Of which I would say there's probably 2 real serious possibilities.
So the fourth, well, I guess, so the 4 that had been listed were to purchase old technology cutters like what we have for $2,500, purchase medium, which is an hydraulic cutter for $4,000, purchase a current technology hydraulic cutter for $6,500 to round, and then purchase the current technology hydraulic cutter for $11,000. The last 2 would reduce the article that's being asked, which is a $47,000 article. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we need discussion. First of all, what is your recommendation?
Of those 4 options, I would say that the $4,000 for the medium technology cutters would be a serious option to consider. Although that would be an interim kind of solution, we would want to replace that with a more current version as soon as possible, either hopefully through the grant that we applied for or through the town meeting article. The second option would be the $11,000 for the current technology cutter, which will certainly solve the problem that we have of not having a fully capable set of cutters. It will start moving towards the goal of the battery operated devices, which reduces manpower, storage space, allows us to do multiple tasks at the same time. So there's a lot of benefits associated with that.
So the ones, I'm sorry.
So my ultimate option, or my recommendation would be $11,000.
So if, let's say that you get the 11,000, the article doesn't pass, is that still usable standalone?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because if we approve am I hearing you correctly, that if we approve the 4, that you'd still keep the article intact for the 47 to replace the 4 at town meeting, replace that piece of equipment? So the 4 would, in your opinion, only buy us 4 months and be a backup?
Basically, yes.
Okay, and then the second question is, if we approve the 11 tonight, and one of the questions that I had asked last week or 2 weeks ago was, do we lose bulk package pricing by, if we do 11 now and then request the town to do 36 at town meeting instead of the total 47, do we compromise a price power?
No, that would not be the case.
So it's like an a la carte purchase. You're lumping them together, but it's not like you're buying a package. You're buying each individual piece.
So the $6,400 one is not an option?
It would be an option, but it would give us a set of cutters would have the capability that we need for the current vehicles that are out there that we need to deal with. But it, in a sense, it would kind of start to lock us into staying with the hydraulically operated tools.
For 7 years?
Until we had to replace it.
Until
yes.
you have to replace it.
One other question for me, and this is a little...
Excuse me, as well as it would lock us into having to maintain the hydraulic power pack that would drive the tool. So it really kind of locks into it.
What's a warranty on a new one? Is it a year or, I mean, I know that's probably just parts or whatever, but what is a warranty on something like that?
I know I asked the question, I believe it's 6 months.
That's it?
I can verify that, but it's 6 months to a year. It's no longer than a year anyways.
6 months parts and labor, 1 year on parts if it didn't fail under wrong conditions.
Under wrong, is that what you said, wrong?
Yeah, if they determine it was used improperly,
Improperly.
so.
Okay.
So,
Let's not go over beer again.
it's important for me to ask this question. We're meeting with capital planning soon, we're running late. There's a transfer request on the table for replacement of Jaws of Life today. I'm assuming that you evaluated the overall purchase of the 47. And I'm just curious as to how high on your list, without talking about your complete list, how high was that item ranked?
We haven't finished ranking everything yet, but I mean, it was certainly up there. I mean, the fact that one of them is unusable at the moment, where you have a loaner tool, speaks to the fact that at least that one needed to be replaced, without a doubt.
So if we were to replace that now, how would that affect your evaluation of the balance of the article?
Possibly.
And you understand that?
I do, yes.
Okay. Let me just hear from the other, any
I have a
questions?
question.
Yeah.
The potential grant, we don't know anything about yet still, right?
Still,
Okay, so question for you then is, if, let's say, we got awarded something, could we still use that money on the airbag kit, stabilization, and cribbing?
if we purchased a new set of cutters now and then we were awarded the grant later on, we could apply to the government, the agency administering the grant, to use that money on other equipment that we could justify the need for. So there's that possibility.
But it's
There's no
whole
guarantee.
new process, so to speak, right?
Not completely new, but
Okay.
a process, right?
But
Yes.
right, not.
Yeah, because you can't just automatically take that
Shift
money and
it.
do what you
No,
want
not at
with
all.
it, because it was destined to.
Allocated for that.
Yeah.
One specific,
designated.
I wasn't sure if it was like the heading of all the safety and
Equipment.
stuff, or if it was very specific to this.
It's very specific.
Okay, thank you.
What are the chances usually? I mean, has it ever happened to us before?
I'm sorry, was it?
Whereby we were given the grant for one thing, we've already purchased it, and you had to go back and ask them if we could use that grant money for something else. Has that ever happened?
No, that's
No.
never
I was
happened to
wondering
us,
what the
no.
probability of them saying, okay, yes, use it. Yeah.
Well, we're dealing with the federal government, so I'm sure that they would like to take any opportunity they have to save some money themselves, so.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I see that. No, you haven't put them in the again. Well,
No history.
so, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the transfer request and put forth for the number one battery operator.
The 11,000. What is this, you're showing $3,500 in the balance, it just says it's 11,000, that accounts 220, oh shoot.
And the current balance is already allocated for
Oh.
purchases for the rest of the year.
Oh, okay.
That account's used for replacing items that we have to replace on a regular basis, such as hose and things like that.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. So, it's been moved and second, let's have some, is there further discussion?
Well, yeah, so, I mean, there's no, so I was thinking about the lower cost alternative, but hearing from the chief, that appears to me to be a wasted $4,000 if we approve that tonight.
Yeah, and my only driver on the, I was for the $4,000 alternative. And primarily because I just didn't see spending $11,000 out of the advisory reserve fund at this point in time, and that it sounded like this could carry you through until, until either the grant or town meeting. The problem is, it's still not an adequate piece of equipment, I don't think. And the fact that it'll be usable,
Yeah.
the more expensive one will be usable going forward in case either the article doesn't get on, or these, to me, this is a pretty critical piece of equipment. And I kind of equate it to the other discussions we were having with the police chief, that there are certain things that you want your first responders to have available to them.
Well, I'm confused. Maybe I missed this. They're not adequate right now until through June? They're not adequate.
No, there's a loaner that the person loaning them, they always take back.
But it's an
They always
older
take
loaner
back,
that
and it's
they've already had an issue with that delayed
Right.
extraction
Right.
because the metal
And you may not
of
have
newer
it.
cars is stronger, et cetera, et cetera.
They're different.
Absolutely,
That-
yes, that's
And
correct.
I made the motion for the 11,
Yeah.
just mainly because I've spent quite a bit of time with the chief, along with other folks on his staff, and I feel I've got a good understanding of all this, and yeah, in light of everything that's going on in town with where the money is, it's not comforting to think about this, but what they have in place right now is not.
It's not what
It's
you
not
want them
working.
to come with when your car is
Well, yeah.
wrapped around a tree.
And I
Right,
don't,
so-
but I also.
And we've had situations recently.
Right.
too.
But I also just don't like, I really do like the appeal after spending time with those guys. I like the concept of a battery, that it's not gonna take two guys, or two or three to be carrying, a compressor with hoses and get it, so one can grab it and go. And,
One time is important.
especially in a volunteer fire department where, and I know they show up, but it just, to me, it adds just greater flexibility, and I would feel more comfortable. We've seen time and time again evidence of this town takes a shortcut and pushes it off, and so I think we need to start just looking at the best alternative up front. So that's why I went with the way I did.
Any comments from the audience? Okay, ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, which is to transfer the $11,000 from the advisory reserve into 220-5858-000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. I think this has to be 3 copies. I'm gonna have to take this up with Linda. Okay, I don't, and she hasn't been, I'm gonna write the 11,000. Okay, that's it? You good?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Night.
Thanks.
Thanks for what you do.
Okay. Parks and Rec, who do we have? Sorry, guys. Sorry. So welcome, we have from Parks and Recreation, an old member and a new member, right? Yes. So we have Tom Wildman and Susan Toiber. This says it. Susan and I know each other because we were both on the board of the Just Cause Walk, the breast cancer walk, which takes place in June. Oh, good print, big print? Thank you.
For my eyes, yeah.
Wow.
Anybody else see this up here? We submitted basically a level budget in December because we requested, we had not completed our budgeting by that point. We actually went and did a bottoms-up budget. I have a spreadsheet in here that will break down, I think, where all the money goes. We have requested some increases. You might approve them, you might not, but this is what the commission believed that we had to ask for. And some of it's covered with revenue from swim lessons.
So in total, what's the increase from the 21,034 that we have in front of us?
For recreation, that's for the 630 account, yeah.
The 630 account,
Mm-hmm.
the request goes up to 26,859.
Okay, walk us through that.
So if you look at the first
Yeah.
spreadsheet in the package, basically I have it broken down by major areas. and then by wages, purchase of service, equipment, and supplies. Our largest expenses are the beach and lifeguards. So we're requesting wages of $11,272 there, and that is an increase overall. It's up $1,400 approximately. And the lead guard is no change, it's $1,000. The lifeguards is a little over $10,000. If you look at what we spent last year, the actual was $9,059. So we are up. And actually this year in FY14, we went high last summer. Part of this was that I wasn't keeping a close eye. We used a lead guard. We're going to spend about $14,000 this year, and we're requesting the 11 there right now.
Is that just?
No, I'm sorry.
You said you went up in terms of you went high last year in terms of
Last summer.
You paid a higher wage, or
No.
you had more coverage?
More hours.
Okay.
Well, the wages for 2014, there was the transfer request we had from you to bring that up to $10,204
Right, and we still need to pay for lifeguards.
in June.
In June, and for half of the lead guard, $500
Oh, in June. Oh, that has to be paid in June as well.
So that brings us up to, we're planning to spend between that, $14,179 this
So you're
year.
gonna need another transfer.
Correct.
That will include the June lifeguard and $500.
Right.
So June lifeguards total like $4,000?
No, it's like 1,500. Or 2,000. Wait a second, I've got to find my one piece of paper.
I don't understand, we had a transfer request last year.
Yeah, we had it this year, for 2014, because the person that we had to transfer from purchase of, we had to transfer into wages because that had been included in purchase of services.
Oh, it was
Remember
an
that?
intro line transfer.
Well, yeah, but we had to increase it because we couldn't do that. But the other thing is, at the time, Tom said that there would be.
Could be more, I don't know.
Well, the comment had been that there would be June lifeguards. I didn't know about the $500, but the June lifeguards. And the person that's doing it now is all under wages, it's not under purchase of services. So I expect purchase of services goes down, which it does.
Which it does. So, I'm going to pull out my current here. We're expecting to do transfers in June timeframe of $3,469.73 to pay wages, and $500 also. That will bring up that line item for wages, and we'll have a balance of $2,069.73, which is the amount that you lent us in the fall, and you asked us not to spend that.
Mhm.
So, given that $3,000 transfer, or $3,900, that'll bring us up on that line item to that point. And if that means we're gonna spend, $14,000 this year, which is high. So,
What's the, just for context, I know we're gonna go through all this, but do you have anywhere so that folks can realize that you do bring in some revenue to the town?
I do have that.
What's the
That's
full
under
number?
swim lessons. So if we look down to swim lessons,
It's on the fourth page.
yeah,
This page?
that page is the history of the swim lessons. And on this page here, I was trying to show what the history has been since I've been on Park and Rec, and where the charges came in. So we started out in FY11, purchase a service, 1 instructor. 12, purchase a service. 13, this is where it's another purchase of service, but we only had 1 session, so things dropped. Last summer, we went to wages, and that's where we got into trouble in the fall. And that was 1,500 plus 600 for an aide. And you can see also what our potential revenue was. So last year we brought in $1,900. FY 12 we had $5,600. FY 11 $9,000.
What's the second number here?
That's
If all the classes were full.
if all the classes were full. I want to also show with that number kind of the scope of the lessons.
So you project next year to raise 8160 on which is 50% of the potential, but you could and get very lucky and raise 16,320.
Could you handle?
We're staffing for the 16,000.
You're staffing for the 16, so why aren't we there? What happened?
People sign up.
We don't fill all the classes.
Yeah, but I thought that was a very popular.
In the younger ages, the preschool and levels 2 and 3 is usually where we're full. And we've actually had to push people off other seasons. We filled, like last summer, we doubled up on the younger ones. We almost filled classes. It's for the older levels, 3, 4, and 5, where we've been very low. So if you look at this plan, 50%, this assumes an 80% fill rate for the lower classes and like a 20% for the older classes. So but it works out to that 50%.
So assuming that same scenario happens, what you're also saying is you don't have this instructor coverage or capability to, collapse class 3, 4 to 1 instructor instead of pushing the 1s and 2s off for another year and add on another class?
Well, we did last year.
Take advantage?
We took out a class, collapsed 3, 4, and 5 down to 1 class, added the preschool. We're going to try to sign up people March 25th here and see how much we fill, and then we can make some adjustments.
Yeah.
The other thing we've added for this year are some late classes for working parents. So the classes start at 5 and go to 7:30.
Yeah.
And so that's so they can come out of work and still get to the beach. That was a request that we've had.
Yeah.
And there we've collapsed 3, 4, and 5. It could be that we can adjust when we see that we aren't filling all the classes.
Yeah, no, it would just be great. It would just, it's unfortunate that I don't think you'd ever want to, turn someone away and say, we'll catch up with you next year.
We didn't do that last year.
We didn't do it last year. I don't think we've turned people away for the younger ones in years past, when we only had 2 of the preschool, for 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So we've tried to double that up and make adjustments. When you get to the older ages, we aren't full enough, it can be flexible.
Yeah.
The other thing we've done is we've added an assistant, because in some of these classes, we might have 6 preschools, and with 1 teacher, that's not, so we've added the lifeguard to be there to work with them, and that is included in the budget. The reason I showed the potential is to show you the history. We have done, 60%, 50%. So, if we bring in this $8,000 of revenue, that will pay for the swim lessons.
Yeah, no, but so let's cost this out, right? Are you staffing? You're staffing, you just answered for 16,320.
Yes.
If based on your history, you're getting 50, 60%, are you over staffing?
For some classes, yes, and it all depends how if we can collapse them and say, we don't need you, instead of leaving at 4, you can leave at 3. That will work with a teenager, that you say you don't need, you're an instructor. But you can't say, for the next hour,
Go do
we're
something else.
paying you.
Right.
And,
So it's hard to do, it's hard to perfectly staff, is what you're saying.
right, but since we're doing the sign up earlier this year, in March 25th.
When were you doing it before?
Last year it was May.
Oh, so significantly earlier.
It's
So people plan their
Yeah.
vacations and they plan their summer, and so
Mhm.
it just gives them. My point on raising the revenue was not, I do not have a problem with the 21
No, 26,000.
or the 26, I really do not. But I'm pointing it out to say that the very least you're gonna get 8,000 to 10,000 that offsets it, and it's really 16,000 for the town, and that's a service that people use. It's lifeguards for people that swim and don't pay money because
Mhm.
they pay money in taxes, and
Mhm.
so I'm not even sure that I need to go over.
I just wanted,
Any of this.
yeah, just a little, just to see so where we are. But I'd like you to do for us, is get together with, Julie and transfer this into the
If you
regular,
look back
where?
a few sheets, it's back there in the regular sheets.
Oh, good.
The only thing I'll mention on your first sheet is your fiscal 14 budget in the purchase of services column, you have 5,600. It was actually 6,600.
66.
She's
According
got
to
it,
what I
she's
have.
got it, yeah.
No, but he doesn't.
I made a
Oh,
mistake there.
oh.
Where are you?
Okay, thank you.
Here.
Purchasing services in there, 26.
So your delta is actually less than you think it is.
So we're actually reducing
Yeah,
our
you-
purchase of service.
But your total delta
Yeah, is-
of whatever you just gave us, $6,000, is actually
Going to be smaller.
from 26,859 to 21,034, and you're thinking it's to 20,034, so.
Oh, the original
Yeah.
request was wrong.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, looking at so what you've got requested for wages is 18,259 compared to a 9,000 actual last year.
Right.
But there's a reduction in purchase of services because really it went into wages, correct?
Correct.
So the 1940 is compared to 5,000 in 2013. And then you've also equipment. I know that you had some plans for equipment. Is that 3,300 adequate?
Oh, for this year?
Yeah. No, that's what's being requested for 2015.
Requested?
You're requesting 4,100?
Not here.
That's, no, it's.
That was the budget. Yeah, that's what, you go here, it might be easier.
Yeah. There's easier.
Yep, sorry. The 3,300,
Yeah.
that's for $1,000 down at the beach,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what it might be used for yet, buoys or whatever. Nothing major like another float. You know, some people want to float out there.
Mhm.
We'll
I
have
know
to
you
come
talked
back
about
and
that
talk
last
about
year.
that.
Yeah.
The 2,300 is for another set of tables. We've been trying to buy new tables for the different parks, and every year, so that's what it's gonna be spent for. And we have money this year to buy a set of tables.
In 2014.
in-
This current year that we're,
This-
the
this
one
year.
that we're in, not,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Okay.
You been able to find anyone to donate some sand, kind of upgrade the beach at all? We were
We-
talking about that last year.
Yeah, we get DPW.
I know what you get. I was hoping you might have a different answer.
We
but,
have not looked.
Yeah.
You dumping on the ice again this year?
I don't think did you do that? You talked about doing that.
We talked about it,
I don't
but
think-
we actually didn't. We're spending $1,000 now, hire someone with a tractor that cleans up, works with Harold, dumps it, spreads it. So,
That's better, yeah.
yeah, well, some people have been down there. for
I said,
clean ups.
went down for cleanup. That was an event. I don't know how come I was there. And then in your supplies of 3,360 is increase, about what your actual was in 2013.
Right.
And that includes, again, these are the celebrations.
Right, we're going up $960 in the events. Halloween's the big one there.
Mm.
But, like this year we spent a little over $1,000 with budgeting 1,200. We think we'll buy candy instead of asking for donations. It'll just simplify some things.
For Halloween.
For Halloween.
the refreshments for the party afterwards.
Okay, so, even though that's an increase, I mean, I'm glad to see money going for, this department.
Well, not only that, there's zero base budgeted and
Yes.
started anew because we've had some
We've had
ups
the
and
tr-
downs.
yeah.
And this is as good as everything I've seen.
Yeah, it's a really good analysis, yeah. You've spent some time in getting that,
We had to do transfers since I started because it wasn't balanced.
The only thing I'd question you on is the 2,300 and other for equipment. Love to see.
I thought the 2,300 was for the tables.
Oh,
Yeah.
it says it says other.
Yeah.
If you look down.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Okay, and anybody else, that work for you?
The only other thing is, the events, police and fire and ambulance are all aware, so as to properly staff for coverage and.
We haven't changed our events.
Oh, okay.
So when we asked Vin Tuesday night about his overtime, he talked about how he knows about these things,
And
and
the
that's
same-
some of in his overtime.
And Margie is now including it, which I don't think it had been included in your budget
Yeah.
before, and that was some of the
Yeah, I
problems.
missed that, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Because you're out doing whatever you're doing. Okay, so that's,
63.
that's 63, 630.
630, and then 650.
650, which is parks. Parks, we will not talk about Chris's part.
And there's another sheet in there. Basically, it's for portable toilets. This year, we're targeting $3,600. I'm gonna have to transfer some money down to that. And the actual in FY13 is $3,096. What we're trying to do is, right now, we're expecting certain sports organizations to pay for their porta potty. And what we'd like to do is provide the porta potties. We ask other things of these sports organizations to pay for fertilizer, to do maintenance, to update the dugouts. And especially at Memorial Park, where it gets used by a lot of people, we would like to pay for all the porta potties that we have planned. One thing that we've changed over the last 2 years is we've had handicap units at the beach and at Memorial. Thought that was important. On some year, Forbush will probably come out, but right now it hasn't. So,
The 40 is an odd number, so there's math behind that. Is that
yes.
$10,010 for four, $1,010 for four? Is that how it works?
It's a little,
I trust you, I just have.
yeah. It's $70 a month for the standards.
Yep.
And $100 for the handicap. And so you add it up,
Okay.
and it gets there. We actually changed vendors this year to a local firm, brought down the cost.
Okay.
So,
So, even though these are not level funded, the committee feels good with that.
I'm fine with it.
great.
Great job.
David?
I'm sorry, I'm sure you went over this and I just couldn't follow. There's a big increase in wages swimming and a substantial decrease in purchase of services, and the reason for that is?
In the past, 2 years ago and previous, the swim instructor was purchase of service, and that has changed to wages. So we've moved that money up in wages. And we didn't have enough funding in wages over the last few years. As we've added additional guards, we have 2 people down there. And we've taken it out of other line items. I've always been in here for transfers in June to pay extra wages there.
Yep.
That explains it, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Sorry for keeping you so late.
Susan will be
Thank you.
picking up the finance students,
Very good luck.
so. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Very cute, very cute. So we're going to welcome the capital planning, some familiar faces.
Hi, how are you? Hey.
How are you?
We try our best, but we never, we may not have 11 o'clock
This is,
Tuesday.
yeah, this is not bad, this is still like a
long nights.
a lot of long nights.
Time into the town, it's great.
No, no, okay.
You guys as well? Where's Bill? Bill can't make it out?
Bill was traveling tonight, Dave may make it, he was working late tonight.
Oh, then this works out perfectly for him to.
I know Bill, and tell him that I asked him why he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So you're fully staffed now, is it?
We are fully staffed, yeah, 5 strong.
Very good.
Came in under the wire there, huh?
Do you have anything for us, or no?
No, we don't, so we don't have final recommendations as of yet. We haven't met together as a group to vote on everything. But we've kind of discussed internally, we've met with all the departments. You know, we still have some open questions, but in general, we feel like we're zeroing in on our recommendations. And probably by next week, we'll meet and then have those to you.
So, is there any, I mean, you're here, so is there any purpose, are we gonna have some discussion about what you?
We could, yeah, no, we can certainly have discussion. I mean, some of it also is what you're thinking about. And
So can I just ask, and again, we're all volunteers, and there's a lot of work to be done, I know you guys are going through. As we're on the almost March 1st-ish, I think next year we need to try to either get Dawn to back up the departments and enforce the deadline, because ideally, and again, I run the risk of this sounding arrogant, and I don't mean it to be, but ideally, I think I'd like to start seeing a ranking, like the final work done in the January 15th, February 1st, February 15th even would be better, right? Because like tonight's special circumstance with the chief for the life, jaws of life, that was different. But there's a lot of good stuff going on, and it's always really good, at least for me, to have your list throughout the process and not in middle of March when it gets down to the wire. And
It's a lot of-
something.
You know, we defer a lot of our decisions, waiting for information from you.
yeah, no, agreed. I mean, they always talk about Thanksgiving as kind of being this deadline for capital requests, and it ends up being closer to
So do you think
January
that
1st
should be
or so.
something pushed from administration?
Yeah. I mean, we tend to get everything by January, and then we meet with groups in January, and then kind of meet internally February is how that
I
goes.
bet you if you got it January 1 and you were you had 4 weeks to meet, I mean, it's probably a lot of work compressed to a month, but the timing still might work. I bet you Don won't want to back up much more than January 1.
Well, I think the date was January 3rd, I don't know when you finally got, I mean, the date for capital.
Yeah.
10th or something.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not blaming anybody,
no,
I'm just trying to say that I think for this to be more timely and useful, it just, earlier in the process, at least for me, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that's something to strive. We're always striving for perfection, I guess. Maybe we'll never get it.
So, what do you feel comfortable talking about? I mean, we have, I forgot to bring my warrant with me, but we had the Town Vault Engineering Group in, Town Vault Committee, and they had come in saying that maybe putting that $30,800 request as a budget item, and we suggested that we felt it would be more appropriate as a warrant article. Have you've talked with them?
We met with them, yep. You know, and the way we explained it to them and said that the warrant article should be very clear that this isn't just a $30,000 article.
It's gone, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's a $30,000 article to see when you should spend $400,000.
Yeah. And there's no sense in improving one if you're not planning on.
Well, that's exactly why we decided to take it out of the operating budget, because we shouldn't have to say to do that.
And Don brought up a good point too, in saying, I don't think you were here then, but saying that, well, you've been here a long time, you know, that possibly if people vote for the $30,800, they're giving tacit agreement or blessing to the whole concept of the 400,000.
Right.
You know, because it's a difficult, you know, it's such a big number, and also hard for people to understand why this can't be done electronically. It also gives them, which I think somebody brought up here, a chance to do a presentation, which they should be doing
Yeah.
to the town. So to have it, and I don't know where that is ranked.
But at the very least, not a $400,000 curveball next year.
Yes, right.
I mean, and we did have questions for them around electronic records and had they looked into that. And there, you know, Pam said that they didn't really investigate that much of anything. They were looking more at a physical structure for.
Oh, but that's not what we were hearing.
Physical
Actually, they were
records.
saying that that wasn't possible to do.
But it might have been changed, I mean, they might have
Oh.
met with them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I
no,
thought it said some things were.
Some things.
She believed that the interpretation of the law says you need to have the records physically kept on site.
Yeah, and I think that's where I just differ,
Yeah.
based on what I've heard.
Do you guys have an opinion on the fact that this law has no
Enforceability.
No bite, no enforceability?
I mean, we've lasted 20 years, right?
Well, it sort of goes to the ranking criteria that we've used as a committee previously, and that we
Oh,
would apply this year, nice versus nice but can wait versus nice to have versus no.
That's what.
So that goes that way.
I assume where you guys are gonna rank it, but.
Well, and I mean, I think one of our biggest concerns was the feasibility study. Was that also going to Kathy Kang? Is that the?
I don't,
Or was
that was
that
like a
gonna be
person
bid?
I think.
It needs to be bid.
That needs, because why would you go back to them?
That was the name that they.
Oh, they used that name again?
I believe that was who did the Sterling vault. And so
Oh.
one of our questions was the comparable number that they're using for that, the $400,000 number, like that just came from Sterling.
Mhm.
And I mean, who knows if they got, if that was a good deal or whatever.
Well,
That needs to
I don't
be
wanna
said.
spend any more time on the.
No,
discussion Because it's not high on my priority list.
That, it's on our list. And you've looked at the culverts. Now, the question, I know that Bob has a question. There are three, are there two separate
There's a 3 culvert
But is there-
replacement at one intersection.
at one intersection? So that the 125 is for all three?
It's for all 3.
Okay, because I think Bob thought that there was going to be more than that, that one of that only covered 2 of the 3, but your understanding is all 3?
Yes, and I mean, culverts generally show up high on our
Yeah.
list of priorities. That being said, the number 1 priority for Harold last year was the Sampson 117 culvert, which didn't get done at the time. I know he's working on that
Yeah.
coming up.
The engineering's done, he's waiting to go to bid until the
Spring. Yeah, I mean, that's some of the problem that we've seen with some things, like especially the school projects, and even poor Margie's her project, her 20,000, is that, you know, we allocate them, the town votes on it, and a year later, nothing's been done, and the money's all tied up, and, you know.
Well, and then the school now is saying we need more money for
Yeah, for-
lots that they haven't
Yeah,
even done.
Or
so-
even the
Prices go
now to
up.
engineer the boiler, which
By the time they
they
get to it.
Right.
didn't do the boiler yet, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, these are it's troubling, I think,
Very
for us to see. I don't know how you address that kind of thing.
I was surprised at the number of projects that didn't get done. I mean, some certainly did get done. The doors at the school were done, so we did a walk through there.
Mhm.
The flooring was on track. I mean, so the flooring replacement has been
That was
going
the
well.
third of something.
Yeah. So I mean, they have 4 requests that came to us. So flooring, interior door, the boiler evaluation, and the lockers. And of those, I mean, not to your point of the boiler, I mean, we see that as, I mean, I think that's useful in the sense that he held off on doing the Emerson boiler in the thought of moving to propane for the Florence Sawyer.
But wasn't that discussion ever brought up last year? Like, you know, there was this concern that, you know, we do this in efficiency and save energy, and which is all great.
And for the kids.
And
yeah.
so
was a
we
big
save
time.
energy, right? And we've gone a whole additional year, and it's just amazing, like that concept of looking at other fuels wasn't brought up, you know, on his behalf, you know, to you guys. Like, it mind-boggling to me.
But
And do we need to spend another 12,000 to evaluate it?
So that would be, so again, we need to separate what that money is for, the Florence Sawyer.
Oh, which was Emerson boiler.
We allocated money for Emerson last year.
That was the 200,000, whatever. Not
No,
200,
75.
75,000.
Okay, and of that money this essentially stays the same. So I mean, that project cost stays the same. it's really a difference of how you're, how you're fueling it, basically, whether it's propane or oil.
When you did the walkthrough, can you just give us a flavor as to what you've seen done? So you just mentioned the exterior doors, which is
Exterior
correct.
doors.
They're all done?
Yes.
Has any of the interior locking mechanisms been addressed?
I didn't see any in the classrooms, but we only walked through Florence Sawyer. We didn't walk through Emerson. We were kind of.
I think that's all we gave them the money for.
We gave it to Versailles, it was 22,500, and when I looked at this a while ago, nothing had been spent.
We give them intercom money. Do you know if any of that's been?
That was Emerson. And that was addressed.
Yeah, they used the new technology, I believe, that tied into the phone system, so they didn't have to spend the money on
Okay.
the new intercom system.
So did you get an idea as to why they haven't done the interior locks at Florence Sawyer that we gave them money for?
That was a big safety thing.
Yeah,
It was. Yeah.
That's why I'm wondering why it hasn't been done. I'm really not happy that it hasn't been done.
No.
No, I got the impression that there was some, that was always a two-phase replacement. That was over 2 years, was how that was presented to us last year.
I think we.
No, I think that
we
was,
asked them
no,
and
I think
said,
that
let's
was the
leave it all
flooring.
down.
Yeah.
We
The
gave
flooring
them-
was.
we gave
Because
them
I
exactly
thought we
the
had
money.
extra money, and
Yep.
then we
Exactly,
made the
no,
call to
that
give it
was-
to
This
them.
request here is just for the interior locks within the classrooms themselves, it's not the full.
The rekeying of the buildings, and this is how it was presented last year, it was split over 2 years, and
How much was
Not
it?
to us.
Yeah, no, we accelerated it because we thought it should all be done. It was right after Newtown and,
You're right.
these are the things that frustrate me, right? And then now that on the docket is money for more interior locks. And so we thought we had addressed that. We thought it was an imminent safety concern that was sold to us in that way. And
Nothing's been
we sit
spent.
here 8 months later and the classroom is only locked from the outside, which
Right.
was why we snapped to and allocated harder and bolted taxpayer money to address a safety concern that hasn't been fixed. And so we haven't had Bill Cleary come in yet.
He's
But I
next month, next week.
Certainly, you're gonna ask him those questions, but I'm curious what
What
he
he said.
learned.
he actually did have a sheet, he's supposed to email me a sheet of what the status of all the projects were, where they were, from last year that were approved.
Do you have a feeling, because I have a feeling, but let me tell you my feeling and ask if you feel the same way, that there's so many projects going on that they are just, and again, no disrespect to Bill, but that it's hard to manage multiple projects,
No,
and that's what the delay is. Do you have a feeling that they're overwhelmed with the amount of things to do?
You're doing a lot internally too, I'm sorry, not letting you answer, but that they finished the concession, he had to finish the concession stand, right? He is, rather than having it.
Well, I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I agree that there's probably some amount that, there's a lot of projects, right? Those split over 2 buildings, I don't know how big his staff is. Things like the boiler replacement, those are major projects that you want done right.
Sure.
So-
But my argument is, take all the school requests for 15 and shelve them for a year, because they haven't even caught up to what they were supposed to do last year, and that's gonna take a good amount of fiscal 15, which they already have the money for. They've demonstrated a lag and a delay, and I'm not gonna give them money for June 1st, 2014, or July 1st, 2014, it's not gonna get spent until May 2015. That's my hypothesis, and yeah.
I mean, of their 4 requests, I think 3 of them could easily fall into like our bucket 2, which is, necessary but can wait.
What's the one of the 4 that you think we should do now?
I think we should evaluate the boiler. I think that's money well spent.
I just don't, I have a hard time spending money
On
to
evaluations.
evaluate something. Like, it needs to be replaced, like, is it to get a cost? We're gonna spend $12,000 to get someone to tell us that it needs to be replaced, it's gonna
Yeah,
cost
I mean, that's something.
$75, like, I just don't get
Well,
that.
I think we were in the site, he's looking at fuel, first of all, 12,000 on a relative basis is not an enormous amount of money, not to be dismissive from 12,000, but he is actively repairing units while we were on the tour. It was the second unit at least that he was addressing. It's looking at not only the units, but the configuration of the space in which they're already installed, and it's looking at fuel options. So 12,000 across the physical repair, the reconfiguration of the installation space, and fuel options. We questioned whether he, in point of fact, had
Is it
enough in there.
12,000
He had
enough?
enough in there, and he claimed he's actually doing a lot of it with his own internal HVAC experience and people on his staff who have those licenses.
Okay.
So,
So it's
that would
Nobody
be
said won't come in and and do that evaluation for you with the idea you might
Probably
purchase
not.
from them?
This sounds like it's BTU analysis and, you know, what the best routing of pipe, I mean, it's
Yeah.
more than just,
Design.
your boiler stinks, you gotta get it fixed, here's what
Yeah.
I do, okay.
So where are they on the Emerson boiler?
On hold on that until they just, so I mean, the
So
question.
this has to be done before he would feel comfortable going ahead and just making, but this is part of the
It's
decision?
one of those things that if you're gonna move to propane, both buildings will be put to propane. The 75,000 that was allocated last year for the Emerson boiler would go from an oil-fired boiler into a propane-fired boiler. So yeah, so the sense is you put that Emerson one on hold until you make your decision about do you move to propane or not.
Hmm.
So that's where he was coming from that. And I mean, that, you know, if the
Okay.
Emerson one is still serviceable, I mean.
So- Yeah, so we have some people here from the outside waiting to hear about what you're thinking about the ambulance and fire apparatus.
Okay.
And whatever you feel comfortable with, and
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we'll start with ambulance first. So we just kind of discussed this. So I mean, I think people have different feelings on it. We haven't come to consensus. We're missing 2 members also. You know, at first, just based on the lifespan of the previous ambulance, 10 years, saying that, well, we have a few more years left in this ambulance. And the fact that we want to keep it, you know, for a second ambulance kind of speaks to that fact. The only thing that would make me think that this is something that needs to get replaced sooner is the fact that the mileage is pretty close to where it was on the old ambulance. And if we wait another year, we'll be over that mileage. Now, I don't know what the acceptable number of miles for an ambulance is, but.
Is it a diesel engine?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the
What's the
fact that
present
we don't have a
mileage?
place to put it, and that it would cost money to put it somewhere, doesn't play a factor into that decision?
So there's really 2 questions. There's do we need a new ambulance? And then if we say yes to that, do we want to keep the old ambulance? As far as keeping the old ambulance, at least the 3 of us, I think, are on the same page that it doesn't really make a lot of financial sense to keep the 3. It's an enormous swing from the sense of we need to, so as part of DPW's request, they've come back with more money for the old fire station. And last year, we felt pretty strongly about that until we have a purpose for that building, there's no reason in spending money for that. This, you know, an ambulance, second ambulance is a purpose for that, but it forces our hand to kind of spend the $28,000 on the repairs for the fire station, plus whatever retrofitting needs to be done for the second ambulance, and then less the trade-in value of the ambulance. So it's an enormous swing if we decide to keep that. It's even more
It's more than that. So if you were to keep the old ambulance for another year, how much, do you have any idea how that affects the trade-in value?
Yeah, it goes down by at least $5,000 plus. We're gonna look at a 3% increase.
In repairs.
Well,
No, it's
just a 3% increase on a brand new ambulance, plus we'd have to bite the bullet with whatever new safety requirements come out, and we're expecting a big one in the next year or 2. Like already we're probably saddled with this urea thing that we wouldn't have had last year had we purchased it. Next year, we're expecting that the NFPA is gonna come out with at least $5,000 worth of additional requirements, so it's gonna cost a little bit more.
And then we struggled with the fact that the repair history itself year on year was actually lower for the current year than it had been in the previous year as well. So you're sort of around the issue of relative ranking of our own internal criteria against needed versus nice pick and wait versus nice to have, and then the ranking from top to bottom.
And you anticipate that that's going to be completed by next Tuesday for our meeting? Or
We
not?
can, if we meet on Monday, we can probably get something to you by then.
But needless to say, sounds like you're leaning towards having the ambulance be something pretty highly ranked.
No, I don't think so.
Not necessarily.
I'm not hearing it either.
Again, the mileage is the major reason to me why I would say this needs to get done sooner rather than later.
Oh, that's
Now
what
you're
I heard,
talking
so,
about
yeah.
a year, like probably another year's worth of miles, and it's averaging 7,600 miles per year, so that puts us far above where the
Where we
previous
had been.
ambulance was.
Yeah.
So, I'm not totally sure what the, what was in the ambulance receipts fund, if they could fund it as is right now. I mean, if it's one of those things, if we could do it.
Pay it for it.
Yeah, yeah, we can do it. Does that influence you?
It does, I think it does.
Okay, yeah, no, it can be done.
If there's access
It's
funds.
not supposed, no, but no, they don't live in a vacuum either.
If there's excess funds, how would those be used?
We use them.
You
Yeah,
use
I
them,
mean, it's used
okay.
as as available funds.
Okay.
There's not a heck of a lot left, but there is some. Yeah, David?
Randy, we're gonna have $50,000 less this year to use from the fund because we didn't quote save enough.
No, it's not completely paid for.
Yeah, so if we waited a year, might that be $30,000 instead of $50,000, and wouldn't that offset the kind of cost increases Margie is talking about? In other words, it seems to me a calculation somebody ought to do is the safety additions will be this much, the price increase will be that much, the trade-in value will go down that much, but on the other hand,
We'll
the
have
town
that much
will have
more receipts.
$30,000 more a year to use from the receipts reserved fund. And I don't know how that works out, but it seems to me that's a calculation that ought to be done before the decision is made.
Just keep in mind, we have one ambulance.
Yeah,
It
and
goes
then when it goes
down,
for
we've
repair, yeah.
been lucky and been able to borrow ambulances in the past, but that's not a give me, we have one.
No, but to Dave's points.
What's the biggest reason why the ambulance goes down?
Good job, what? It just did it. I mean, I can't
What was your
anticipate
question?
it, but
What's
the
why
last,
does the ambulance go down?
the last time that we had, a big repair was a simple oil leak, and the way that ambulances are made, it took 13 days because they had to take the entire engine out to find that leak, repair it, and then put it back together again. 13 days without an ambulance is a long time.
Yeah, it gets utilized.
Okay.
Okay, fire apparatus.
So I was hoping that we'd have all five of us to be able to kind of discuss that. I think everyone's a little bit torn on that one. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, maybe we can.
We'll wait.
You wanna wait, or do you
Well, I
wanna
mean,
just?
I do want to talk it out a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
so I'd like to understand where you're coming from too. I mean, from,
We're probably as mixed as you are.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you have two fire trucks that are close to 30 years old. You need to do something relatively soon. So if not now, then when?
Yeah, kind of where I'm at, but we have the money this year that we might not have in succeeding years. Possible, I mean,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's one use of,
All relative.
it's all relative. We have funds available for a variety, any one of these could be cut. So, yeah, there's money available that may not be available in succeeding years, and then you'd have to borrow for it. But if we take Randy's position, which is you guys should be over, not, be up here and not thinking about the funding, how does that, when you're looking at the whole package, where do you come down?
Oh, I mean, if you take funding out of it and say, does the town need this? I mean, yeah, by most accounts, the town
Well,
needs
that's
this.
what we want to hear from you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just going from their own, saying, in order to increase the life of their current primary engine, it needs to be taken off the front line and replaced with something else. I mean, that's what, that's certainly what Chief Alfano does with his cars. I mean, you can't just drive a car into the ground and then expect it to last for some other purpose other than being a frontline response vehicle.
Did you think at all about, did you guys get as technical and granular as giving up pumper storage capacity and the type of vehicle that the chief is looking to purchase, and did you discuss that?
Yeah, I mean, so it goes from, right now you have 2 tankers and then 3 pumpers of some sort. And then you go from that being 4 and 1. And this was something that we talked about, is this the right truck? Is that the right mix? I think they did a good job of breaking down some of the other towns and what they have for a mix of vehicles. And any way you cut it, we're lower or as low as other towns with an older fleet. So, one thing that I brought up was, is it better to replace engine 4? I mean, can you replace engine 4 with an all-wheel drive truck, which is a lower cost? That was, I think they had submitted $250,000 for that in FY15 last year. That's not on this one, but so it's obviously a cheaper truck. You get more use out of doing that. And he seemed to say no, that the engine 1 was the one that they wanted to move out of primary.
Okay.
So on that same note, that an engine 4 is the brush truck.
That's the brush one. So
And and I heard that too. So they're looking at a Ford 550 body on that. It's going to be lower cost, and so that wouldn't even on some type of almost like hybrid. It would work.
I think
on the driveway as a front line going down the driveway.
And that's a question for him.
Sure.
As a frontline attack piece, going to a structure fire, NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, states it must have 1,200 feet of large diameter hose, minimum of 500 gallons of water, a minimum of 750 gallon per minute pump. So for us to build a truck, and 800 feet of attack line, for us to build a truck on an F550 chassis that's going to carry that, it's not going to work. You're going to be over the weight limit of the vehicle. You just they won't physically build a vehicle on an F550 chassis that's going to do it.
And this is so it's that type. I mean,
that truck's a specific purpose for brush. We make it small to fit into places, and
yeah, and so it's that very quick, detailed, and then these are. I mean, it's almost like, how can you, from my standpoint, how can you argue against what these guys? I mean, they've obviously spent a lot of time putting that together, figuring out their fleet.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
We're not experts in it. I'm just asking. We're asking
Yeah,
questions.
I don't like the idea of a $500,000 truck either, but it's like, I absolutely wasn't behind this thing. Last year I spent time with those guys to get this, and I absolutely feel more comfortable. But yeah, would I love some hybrid and chip? I understand you very succinctly threw that out the door on me, which is fine. But it's that right there, and these guys have got to live with this.
People?
Yeah.
And why 6 people? I still can't wrap my head around that.
National Fire Protection Association has an industry standard, which is 2 in, 2 out. Presently, if I go to a driveway that is a long driveway that I can't get a truck to, and I can take my 4-wheel drive truck, it's only 2 people in the truck. What 2 in, 2 out means is if 2 people are gonna go in that house to effect a rescue or put the fire out, 2 more have to be standing at the door to rescue them or to back them up. When I only have a truck that takes 2 people to the front door, we can't even go in the house. We're gonna make sure you maybe made it out of your house, your family's safe, and we can launch some water from the outside.
That's not the part I don't get, is, I asked this question of the chief before. The fire truck leaves the station, it doesn't wait for you guys to meet it there and jump in.
But we all have to go to the station, put our gear on, and get in the truck. There's no more going to the scene anymore because of the
That I didn't
contamination
know.
factor of the gear. I mean, Brad remembers the day going with his grandfather, let's go.
That's not what I said.
But we don't do that anymore because of the contamination factor of our gear. If I put my gear in my car, I sure as heck don't want my 2-year-old daughter crawling around and whatever I've fallen off my gear in my car. So we refrain now from having gear in your
So
vehicle.
when there's a fire, wherever you are, you respond by going first to the
Station,
station and
boarding
then
apparatus,
to the fire,
Yes.
everyone.
yes. Other than the fire officers have the option to carry their gear, there's only 4 of us. And we basically know if it's a crappy night, it's gonna be a bad storm, we each live at different sides of town, and we know that we will go, either Dave Farrell usually goes right to the station because he lives close enough. Myself, I'm over in Clinton, so I take that section of town there, I will go directly to see if there's a call for a house fire. I would go there first myself.
So now I'm hearing something.
But this is all I do, I go, as an officer, I go and give a report as to whether I need more people or whether I need less, but that's only situational in specific crappy weather, basically, when the roads are, when my guys are gonna be delayed getting to the
So
station.
have you ever had less than 4 people show up at a fire?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you, hey, by the way, I mean, I can't have a stitch of alcohol and go anywhere near that station. So I pretty much don't drink unless I'm 200 miles out of town. But some of my younger guys go out and have a drink and they can't come. Now, I can't tell people to put their life on hold and say, you need to go home every night, sit down and wait for that page to go off and then show up. People aren't gonna do it. They go to the movies, they go out, they go to dinner.
Yeah, I was just looking for a way to get a cheaper truck. One that didn't have to hold 6 people.
Well, unfortunately, the 6 people, and you break down the 6, 2 guys to go in, 2 guys to back them up, 1 guy's gotta run the truck, and 1 guy's in command. That commander may be going in with the crew, but your 6th man is your really true minimum you're gonna roll up with something.
That's if everybody shows up, because if you get less than 4, then.
Right, and well, we have a tool for that at the station. I have a computer screen when I walk in, my guys all log on, same as Margie's. I walk in, there's a screen that shows me who is logged in is coming to the call. I can look at that and go, all right, I got guys to staff this many trucks. And I can look at that and, all right, I'm not leaving those with less than 5 on this truck, because the only person I might leave out is the driver for the next truck to make sure I get another truck behind me. But it's call-to-call situation. But
You wait? You wait?
We
You don't
wait.
get the truck,
I wait
okay.
for a crew.
You wait for a crew of
So,
6.
we should hear your opinion, the committee's opinion on this, where your ranking is next week. And I-
It'll probably be a split vote.
You think it? Yeah.
It will probably be a split vote too.
Yeah, so depends on where the 3 and the 2 are, right? Or the 4 and the 2.
As far as, getting a cheaper truck, to me, just looking at the numbers, the only thing that could happen is you replace the all-wheel drive. Engine 4 right now with something cheaper, and then you end up driving engine 1 into the ground, and just say that's what you got.
But on that same vein, it's basically say, thanks guys for doing all the homework, and thanks for making a recommendation on a piece of equipment that's gonna impact your life on a daily basis. But you know what? We're gonna go completely against what you're thinking. We're gonna give you money for a different vehicle.
And that was the,
That's the
that
argument
was what I
against.
asked, right.
So just, I'm just gonna move,
Which is one more thing in regards to that. We've worked on this 2 years. The original truck estimates we got from what is considered the industry standard of the best manufacturers, we've already seceded the fact that we can't afford those. So we've already moved into the mid-range of vehicles manufacturers that we're willing to accept.
and over those 2 years, did the price of an apparatus go up?
Of course it did.
Okay.
I have this.
Okay.
I have a question. It'll be quick. Is it a ladder truck, which I don't even know what that is? but-
No, it's a
Only
ladder. I will say,
because,
boys,
I know, but I didn't know if it was or not.
you're looking
I
at
mean,
a
I
ladder truck,
figured-
you're looking at 850,000
Only because
plus.
I remember when they were doing the 40B, they were talking about we didn't have a tall enough ladder on any of our equipment to actually fight a fire if it was at the top of the,
The
or
town has
rescue
had a-
someone from that
Tom's had a
high up.
bylaw for years that no habitable point in the house can be over 35 feet tall. And that's
we're
because I
equipped-
carry a 35-foot ladder.
And we're equipped for that, okay.
Yeah. That's why the whole top of the Bolton Corners is unoccupiable.
Bolton Corners, which?
563 Main Street.
Wow.
They finished that attic and had it ready to occupy. We measured, dropped the tape measure out the window and went, seal it off with fire code, have a nice day. I can't put anybody up there because I can't get in there with a ladder.
David?
What Brad just described, I disagree with totally. That's the job of the advisory committee to say, you've told us what the very best thing to do is. We're telling you the money isn't there, or this isn't an appropriate use of town money. You ought to do that at least some of the time.
Dave, I'm fully aware of the money. I can see the money. I do rely on that gentleman and his staff to adequately get me up to speed on what makes sense from a piece of equipment standpoint. I don't know the first damn thing about a fire engine, on what to go out and buy, what to potentially buy.
But you know what the town's finances are, and what the
Yes,
tax
I do.
rate is, and so forth.
Absolutely.
And your job is to reconcile those.
I feel I am.
Okay, so, just two other items that I don't think we discussed is the Sanders, the body replacement, looking good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in the sense, yeah, it kind of brought up a bigger point of moving away from, supporting our own sander trucks and moving towards some sort of
Right,
contracting.
there's a conversation about that, yeah.
So, but in general, I mean, if he can stretch out what he's got for now, for 72,000, and then start to wind down. I mean, I guess, if you said next year he's gonna come to us to buy a new plow sander, we could price it.
No.
Did you realize that he deferred the 75, the truck?
Yeah.
Purchase?
Yep.
Yeah.
Was that okay with you guys? I mean, did you, before he did that, were you talking highly about the need for that?
We were gonna dig into it a little bit more. I mean, most of the other groups do a pretty good job of presenting us what their fleet is. Like for DPW, until this last meeting with him, I had no idea what his fleet was. I don't know how many trucks he has and what each one did and how many miles on it and that sort of stuff. So, as part of that would have been, present us with that list of what your fleet looks like. So, because otherwise I don't really have.
You don't have that now even?
Not now.
But you it's a year old, but you evaluated a truck for him last year, and did you have that information last year?
Verbally, not written at the time.
So that's something we should encourage.
It is, yeah. No, I mean, most of the other groups.
Yeah.
And do you meet with him face to face, or is it all?
Face to face.
Oh, you do? He just,
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that tends to come out of those, and we need to follow up on those. And the slip lining of culverts and establishing some sort of program for how we do more routine maintenance on that sort of stuff.
So do you have, when you present something to us, is it a 5-year plan?
Well, we're gonna give you our
Recommendations?
ranks for this year. Most, I mean, I guess he did this year. DPW is really the main group that gives us a 5-year plan, year to year. Other people have stuff maybe out another year or two, but.
But I've seen the 5-year plan that's put together by you guys, and it's had it's had a senior center, it's had a new DPW barn. I mean, it had the swing set replacement. So that is something that I really would encourage.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That helps with, when we do have any available funds, how we might spend it or not.
And people, again, we rely on the departments to provide us.
You're not requiring that.
Everyone's asked for that. Anyone who comes in is asked if they have a request that they haven't submitted, and some do and some don't. You can see from our profile when the report comes. Speaking of, you've got a planner's group year on year, and it's a little sketchy. So some do and some don't consistently.
I think then next year, when Don sends out the list for capital requests, he sends out a mandate that each department provide a 5-year plan.
Yeah, I think that.
One of the items I'll add just for you tonight so that you guys can think about it is, we have a wastewater treatment facility that we spent a couple $1 million on maybe 10+ years ago. We asked Don tonight to see if there was any big ticket maintenance that gets done on that periodically, because I don't know about it and I don't think anybody knows about it, and we certainly as heck haven't planned for it. So.
Yeah.
And it seems like a 10-year, it doesn't seem like it's that old, right? I mean,
probably maybe.
And we don't know.
Exactly. But yeah.
Question needs to be added.
And the last item that I think I know, the rescue equipment, which I think you did make it.
I mean, so you've appropriated money for
The 11,000. Yeah, we were talking about it. 11,000.
Want to shop?
Did you for the alternatives, the battery versus the generator, did you have an opinion?
I mean, obviously, the batteries obviously are better,
Right.
as far as things go. But, the only other thing I guess we could talk about are the cameras.
Cameras, right.
So there's cameras at library and cameras at town hall. Leaning against cameras at town hall, it'd be nice to have, but no immediate need for that. Camera at library would be good to have, but I think our requirement would be that they send the feedback to the police station. It doesn't seem to do any good to have that be stored locally at the library, mostly because I mean, who knows how long this one was broken for before someone.
Yeah.
I think it's in the proposal though.
Well, they had a couple of different proposals. I think it's a range
Yeah.
because of that, fee versus non-fee.
It seemed
Well, but no, I heard the chief took the DPW out because one of the reasons was there was no logical or
He
no.
did say that, but I think-
way to get to the police station from that distance.
Okay.
But I just assumed that it was being,
The
I mean,
li-
it's fed to a monitor in the library that nobody is looking at.
Well, it's a standalone system sitting in the library, is how it is now, so they would move the recording.
Now, you're both inside and outside,
Yeah.
interior and exterior
Yeah.
cameras?
So I know the, I remember when library came in and the idea was when that library was created, they had a camera, but then that
Got
camera
donated. A
Right.
used camera got
And
two
it's-
used cameras got donated.
has subsequently failed.
Yes.
And the genesis of this camera idea is coming from the chief, correct?
No,
Yes.
it was coming, the trustees raised their hand and said, we really should replace these. Let's see what the chief says. The chief said, I agree, and you should put cameras outside.
That's
Alright, and it's just to keep track of if another
The two-
18-wheeler
the
comes
two
in and
inside
knocks
are
down a really
certainly-
nice light.
Now, that's part of,
The
that's.
two inside
outside.
are for kids and safety and,
So the ones inside aren't working?
that's
No,
right.
that's-
They're broken.
Okay.
But they were
And
never.
no one knew they were broken
Right.
for,
Because of no.
Right.
there's
because no
feed.
one's going and.
People can
I
take
thought
off
that's
So
the
do you
why-
know if the
kid,
bin
whatever.
has the
That's
feed in it?
a no-brainer.
I don't believe it did.
I don't know.
He told us he would have,
Because
they would
that's
have to be
why we hired two
recorded.
people
The
to be
quote
on
seemed
the
awfully
upstairs
high.
for safety.
10,000.
Yeah,
Remember,
for,
we couldn't have one
Yeah.
person.
for cameras,
We had to
and, I
have
mean,
two
it
for
just,
safety.
I don't know
And
how
we
the,
had the cameras for
the quote
safety.
process works, if that has to be a
Yeah.
standard bidder, and it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
using.
well, you have to figure out how much to put in
I'm
the
not-
article for that.
Yeah, and the chief said the other night that it's not like it's an economy of scale thing.
I like the
buying
cameras
three is gonna
outside.
save any
But
money.
the ones for the outside, he always wanted, that wasn't part of the donation, but then that trailer tried to take a U-turn and knocked down a couple light
Yes.
poles, and they could never find out who did it, and if they had cameras, they would know. So, yes, the cameras for the outside is for the hopefully unlikely event that something bad happens, that we could figure out what happened.
Ah.
So,
So I can get my head around cameras on the inside, but I also wonder about the staffing with inside the library, if, that might
Well,
not
we paid,
solve
one of the
that.
things that they brought up when they were staffing the new library was the fact that they needed two people on the second floor, which is where the kids are, because of safety. They didn't want one person, and we went round and round about that. And so we said, okay, another person for upstairs for safety reasons. So now
Mhm.
we need the cameras for safety reasons. I don't know.
And I love the idea of a donation for cameras for the outside. I think that's a perfect donation from someone.
Well, I don't know how many times light poles are gonna get knocked down, but what else has happened
Exactly.
out there?
So
well,
I
the
think
one,
it's a great
yeah.
concept
the
for
one
donation.
here was people are walking late at night, it's not lit well, and it's a, I can get my head around it as we made a really huge investment in a very nice building that, for security reasons, you'd wanna have some visibility.
Well, I'm opposite from you. I can see them on the outside, I don't see them on the inside.
There are a lot of weird people that do show up at public libraries. To put them out. No, like no joke. I mean,
Guess so.
homeless people.
Mike, please expand on your knowledge of this.
No, I mean, I grew up in Worcester. Like, I've seen.
Honest to God, I was in Holden and with young kids, and
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
There are like.
public place, and it's warm in winter.
It is. It's especially in the winter. A lot of people go in there who are homeless or who have mental issues, and it's just so. For the inside point of view, I think it does make sense to have
Okay.
cameras in there.
Here?
Yeah, maybe not as much, but I mean, still,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's like if you had, if costs weren't an issue, right, you would say, well, yeah, you'd have cameras in there, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you would just kind of expect it
Yeah.
in this day and age.
It's kind of like the lock on the door, like it keeps,
Well, it's like the locks for the kids,
the
the
honor
safety
people,
stuff.
it keeps the honest people out at night, I don't know.
So
So-
the
Keeps an eye
last
on me,
piece,
not so.
Yes.
Randy.
So we met with the chief on the cruiser, it's in the budget, I'm assuming that you guys looked at it and looked at the age of his fleet and agree that a cruiser is a reasonable purchase. I'm gonna go outside the box. I went into the meeting with the chief saying absolutely no rate to a cruiser because of not me. We've given him one the past 2 years, and we've talked about this 2-year on, 1 year off, every 18 months, that's how you accomplish it. Looking at the age of the fleet and hearing from the chief, I left the meeting convinced that we needed one, surprised myself. I've actually been thinking recently about, what about the idea of giving him 2 for fiscal year 14 or 15, and then then we're caught up and we don't give them
I
one.
don't know if you're
fiscal
totally
year.
caught up because
Well,
you
we're
said.
better, we're certainly better than
off.
just.
I don't think it was ever 2 on, 1 off. I think it was more like.
Well, we couldn't do
3
every
on,
18,
1
we
off,
couldn't do
4.
every 18 months in the fiscal
Yeah.
cycle, so we said, all right, well, 2 on, 1 off essentially encompasses every 18 months.
But then we saw, we
on
got into
average.
trouble for
But then we got
that
into-
1 year
Yeah.
that we didn't give him one.
But
It
that was
really has
before the
messed
2 on, 1 off.
up. Well, but we never did the
But
2
we
on.
don't- Well, no, we're done
talking
2,
about-
and now we'll actually maybe do 3.
Yeah.
I know I don't like to spend money, everyone knows that. What about giving him 2 in fiscal year 14 and getting rid of the,
Three
he's got
cars
4
over
that are
100.
over 100,000,
Three
and
over
that would
100. Yeah.
revolutionize his fleet. I'm just throwing it out there, it's not for you to react, but when you looked at the age of his fleets, well, your recommendation was absolutely to get 1?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And would you have absolutely object if we started asking the questions and floating an idea for 2? I'm just putting you on the spot completely, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the need for 2. I don't know why you would do 2 this year instead of 1 this year and 1 next year. I don't know what the
He's
benefit.
got 3 that's over 100,000 miles, or
Yeah, but
is it 2?
but some of them, one's an SRO car,
Yeah.
one's a traffic
Right.
vehicle, there's one patrol car, I don't have it in front of me, but, yeah, so
Well,
they're
that's
not all
fine.
used the
They're-
same way, so,
No,
yeah, you have one
they're-
patrol car and the other 3 are, one's admin, one's a traffic enforcement, and the other's SRO, so I think one.
So when do you drive those things into the ground? When they reach, what, 150,000 miles?
Well, but it depends how
No,
they're
it's
being
not
used,
the
you take them
mileage.
out
What
of,
is
you have to
it?
take them out of
Take 'em out of
patrol.
frontline
Yeah, from the
service.
patrol service, and you put them into admin.
So there's 3 in frontline service, and
See,
that's why,
yeah.
that's why you essentially
That's why we
do
did 1.
No, but that gives you, but that would give you a 12, a 13, and 2 14s. Actually, I thought I heard 4 in front of me.
No, there's a 14 right now, so
I'm
it'd be a
sorry,
15.
13, a 14, and 2
14.
15s. I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. I'm tired, I don't want to talk about police cruisers every year for the rest of my life, okay, so,
But I think that makes sense.
well, it's just an idea.
Yeah, well,
I didn't
Yeah,
think it would be well received, but I haven't passed it.
glutton for punishment.
So we, so we don't talk about 1 next year,
Yeah.
but very year after that, we do.
See, I
So
just
then
feel
maybe
like
we're-
the
so then maybe we're on a different side.
But the
I'm just throwing it out there.
budget's so far for so many years, except for the year office, it has, it's part of the budget, I mean, because he
I understand,
Okay.
but he complained that, like, neglect has depleted his fleet.
He said he's caught up at this point.
He didn't
If he
tell
gets
us
it,
that.
if he
If he
gets
gets
it.
us well this year.
Yeah, it's a new one.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't know, he doesn't know that
Well,
someone's thinking about.
He's now knows, I'm sure somebody told him that. Gee,
I'm sure he'll
get
say
down
that
there.
he'll be really caught up if he gets too. I mean, listen, as much as we want to talk about saving money, we also need to talk about spending money if it makes sense and it sets us up better.
I
okay?
totally agree.
And that's why this
in the
is, I
long
know after 7 years, this is not a comment you expect to hear from me. Maybe we buy 3 ambulances, I don't know. Okay?
Someone
We gotta get him off.
Someone take his blood
What is it, what's in there? I
No,
think that was
it's
funny.
there's little Baileys in there, but
Little
it's,
Baileys.
Stop dieting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
That's the answer to it.
If
Yeah,
it
okay.
fixes problems and it sets us up better, it's just it's something to think about.
Thank you.
And, actually, when I thought about it, when I actually was talking to someone else about my radical idea, I should be fair, I was thinking about 2, buying 1 and leasing 1. Buying 1 for 40, the first year cost of a 3-year lease that Vin gave us on Tuesday was 13. And so it costs you 53, it's 13 incremental to get 2.
Yeah,
How is that?
Okay.
I can get my head around that.
That's, I forgot, that's an important point.
Yeah, that's
I
an
forgot
important.
that.
Yeah. And I
So next year, the only thing that would be hitting the
Is
would be
another
13.
13, and yet, right, that's, that was important, I forgot, I'm sorry.
And that was the first time, I think that was the first time Vin brought up the whole leasing.
Right.
And on the heels of Harold looking at the leasing of the containers, I would love for you guys to kind of expand on that with Vin and see. So that's I can absolutely get my head around that. Who cares if he's got to sell it for $1?
Well, he's got to sell it for $1 anyway.
Well, and
Yeah,
also, I'm assuming, we didn't ask enough about the lease, but as we all know with personal leases, those who have them, there's mileage caps and stuff. Leasing one while you just bought one might make it more economical for you to keep the mileage cleaner on the lease.
Yeah, so you'd have to change from a 3 front line to maybe 4
And
front line,
I just,
something like that.
you know, again, not for tonight, but my mind's been thinking, so.
I like the outside the box. It suggests another option to think about is one of the original drivers of Vin's vehicle replacement program being a little more levelized. We agonized last year about looking at the full 5-year window and trying to tweak one year out of 5 alternating a vehicle. I mean, it's difficult to do like that. But his doing it once every year and having it relatively predictable but still scrutinized has that enduring look at how's he doing with his maintenance, how rigorous is he in tracking the fleet, and I think he's responded well to that, and he has a good process, and I think it's doing what was originally intended for advisory. If by chance we had a spare 40,000 for, I'm not suggesting it's a spare 40,000, I was thinking, looking at the schedule of what we did get in the out year, the fire department's got a radio replacement program for the following year that again is another bump that he doesn't normally have, and I think the radio fleet's been represented to be non-conforming now. So if there's a potential benefit to accelerating that purchase,
So that
getting
would
some
be,
commodity
the
benefit
funds would be available for the radio.
for the radio in the
That's why
current
that would be
fiscal
helpful,
year.
yeah.
That might be a better place to
So
accelerate a
more of a
spend
reason for
and
the
avoid
5
a spend in the
Yeah.
out year, because the VIN's more predictable, and you get that look into, not only are you managing his 40,000, but he's responded very well to actively managing the fleet and the total expense.
So why do you lease 1 and not 2? I mean,
Well, you maybe do.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, you maybe do. And let's be honest, regardless, if you give them 2, 40 and 13, or 13 and 13, whatever the numbers are, I guarantee you that repair number comes down dramatically.
all right, tires won't.
And it
but the
pays for
repair
a
will.
good portion of a lease, first-year lease. Because if he gets 2 new ones, he has 2 that are babies right now. He's got 4 vehicles that are within 2 to 3 years old, and those are the frontline vehicles, and those things better not break.
Exactly. But yeah, to Connie's point, other than tires
Right.
and an oil change.
Well, this is good. Did Vin need to look at this, or?
I haven't reached out to anybody on it, so, but it's, hey, maybe we start doing some costing on it. And yeah, maybe for 28,000, which is 2 years lease, it's better than 40 for 1. You spend 28 for 2.
Yeah, let's
And you
ask
save
that
12
question.
grand, and you save, I'll
You
take
have to-
that.
you
I mean,
have
I've
to-
never heard anyone with a good lease story, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and that's what
Yeah,
we're
it's
supposed to
the
do.
mileage.
Well, and our other
It's the
departments, our
mileage
other
factor that-
Yeah.
departments leasing, and what are the downsides to leasing?
I wouldn't have thought you'd lease a police car.
vehicle, yeah, I can imagine. But he did mention it.
I still-
He gave us a handout that I have on.
On leasing?
Yeah, he gave it to everybody.
You guys can have that.
Oh, yeah, that one, that's right.
Payment amount, 14,331.
Say anything about
For
miles.
the number of payments, 3 years, total funded amount 40,000. So it spreads a $40,000 car over 3 years, 6.5% interest, which stinks, but it's 14,331 for 1 year, for 1 car. But if you get 2, it's 28,662. It's better than 40. It replenishes the fleet. It probably pays for some repairs going down.
And then if you want to buy it, it's cheaper to buy in the
Who
end.
cares about the buy? And
Well, I
on
mean,
the
if-
3-year,
if in 2 years or.
Well,
So
yeah.
his
I mean,
2010
these are the number of
car.
cars he needs to have, right?
his
7 or whatever.
2010 car, so that's 3 years old now. I'm sorry, just over 4. That's $100 grand on that.
So in 3 years, he cranks,
It's gone.
3 and change, he cranks on 100,000.
But when you're all done, he doesn't have any cars.
Yeah, but he gets rid of them anyway for nothing. He said he couldn't get them,
Yeah,
he couldn't even sell them for
there you go.
$600.
But he uses the,
Oh, he transfers.
But no one
yes,
uses the
that's-
town hall
Well,
car.
no, but
Yeah.
that's, but he gives them to the EMT, he
does.
uses it for SRO, and that was what he said the
Well,
downside
Or
was.
you buy a used Crown Vic for 10
No, but
grand and you're still
yeah,
ahead of
but
the
I
game.
mean, right,
just,
well, I know,
you know.
it would be catch-up, but right.
Even
Well, I don't know, the
you can't
SRO
use that
officer
one.
couldn't use that. The SRO.
Yeah, maybe it's not, it's not a 100% buy that has been, it's not 100% lease, but it's I mean, so yeah, let's
It's another option.
figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go for broke. Terrible.
Good job. Okay, so, are you just gonna, you're not coming next week?
No. Can we lease 5 trucks? No, seriously.
You can, but I actually met with a bunch of chiefs today who are going for fire trucks, and they've looked at the lease option. And there are mileage restrictions, which obviously we're probably not go over mileage, but there's required maintenance. They don't care how many miles you put on it, you're gonna change your oil and all the fluids so many times a year. You're gonna do a bunch of maintenance that you may not necessarily have to do, but the lease program requires it.
But you'd do that if you owned it anyway.
No,
To
he
be
said
prudent, wouldn't you?
We change the fluids twice a year in most of the trucks. You know, they're not getting high mileage, they're not getting high idle time, we're not, you know, a full-time department.
It's a perfectly, a lease company would love Bolton with those circumstances, wouldn't
If they
it?
would, except the costs we're gonna incur theoretically on the stuff they're gonna make you do. Because they may make you change, you know,
Why not
it's
cost you out?
$13,000 in tires, if they make you change tires every year, which we normally would never have to do, you're gonna end up bringing your number up higher.
But
and
not
then-
higher than $585,000.
plus if you can spread it out somehow, that's the problem.
It's the
with this thing.
amortization, yeah.
If there's some way to spread this out, it would sure help a
It's,
lot.
the lease is like a loan that it would allow us to borrow for it without borrowing
Well,
for it.
the manufacturers will finance a truck, if you want them to finance a truck.
But we have to then get it borrowing at town meeting to do that, I think.
Right, and you end up with a finance rate.
And that hits the tax rate right away, we don't wanna do that.
We don't wanna do that.
Right.
But a lease is a deferred payment that's like a borrowing that we can stick in our operating budget without a 2.5 override.
And you get a new truck.
We get a new truck.
Yeah, I
Well,
would
you
think
say
that
that
tire.
that can't be a 3-year,
I don't know, that's why I'm
Yeah.
saying, let's
Right,
ask.
and then
7 to 10,
7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
so,
That'd
I
be great.
mean, I can,
It's
we
a
can talk to
borrowing
the.
within
people who talk
2.5. Right, I mean,
Yeah, you can
unless
put
someone
the-
tells me differently. it
But we'd have
sounds-
to find out if that's, yeah,
If
we
it's
can
a,
do
I
it,
mean,
yeah.
listen, we're on this lease frenzy because we just saved all this
And
money
just to
at
say,
the
another,
DPW,
another
like,
lease,
lease
another
starts
lease,
with them, 'cause that's Worcester
another
leases
lease
everything.
story is that, you saw the thing I sent out to you from NRS, from the Neshoba Regional School District, the van, for $45,000 they're gonna be leasing. So they're going from, for $15,000 a year. So they're going to leasing.
So Chip, you just said what? The Worcester Fire Department leases everything?
Worcester DPW.
Oh, DPW.
Every one of those DPW trucks belongs to Penske Leasing. Everything.
So, ambulance, leased ambulance?
I imagine you can. I've never looked into it.
Oh, it's interesting. Now, what do we want?
Leased vault is next. They can just drive it up
Leased the vault.
and just drop it on some cinder blocks. Yeah.
The gentleman who did the walkthrough in this town on that study, Terry French, said to me directly on the phone that to your point, there's no teeth on the law, that no, the state is not in the business of throwing $400,000 mandates on. He's like, are you guys building a new town hall? I said, not that I'm aware of. I said, then what are you doing buying a new vault?
Right.
But he wouldn't put it in writing.
I never asked him.
Yeah, I'm sure he would not. David?
The difference between the ambulance and the fire truck is we have the receipts reserve fund there. So I don't think leasing is so pressing, but I really think that there ought to be a serious examination of leasing on the fire truck.
Is that something you can put together?
I guess I can contact the 7 vendors we've been working with, and you want to report back next week on the feasibility of it?
That would be good.
If
I mean, if it
it's
looks like
more
it's-
palatable and you can, you shouldn't.
care how it's
get a
done.
new. You could get a new fire truck.
We have to,
Don't worry about the.
The financing is, it's either 500 up front or 100,000 a year for the next 7 years, or I don't know, whatever it is. With
oh, well, that's a big issue.
Well, no, but
I
think
don't want to
about
be paying
it.
that
It
much.
might be though, I mean, that's just.
It might be,
You know,
but that's still better.
Yeah, and we have to see if we can put it in the budget. We have to see if that's doable.
So
We
let's
have to
get
see
some
if it-
information.
Yeah, so we have to, let's get the information.
You can lease a fire truck.
I'll talk to the vendors and see what the 7 vendors we've been dealing with, I'll talk to them and,
I don't know.
They could put something together for you.
I don't know.
well, I know one company did say that they have a payment plan they'll put you through, or they can do a lease-to-own program. It does the financing's a lot more than it would be for a town to just, to just buy it outright. There's also.
If we buy it on a payment plan,
We don't have to come up with the money up front.
do we only have to
You do have to come up
allocate
with,
it
I think it's 33% up front as a deposit payment for them to build it for you to lease it.
But I
Okay.
think you'd have to have town meeting appropriate the whole amount of the payments, because what if we vote payment 1 in and then payment 2 gets down, they just
Yeah, that would
repo
have
it? I mean, I don't know
You'd
what
have to
happens.
vote something that's
Yeah.
gonna be added to your annual budget.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yes.
at the fire truck too, if you look at the fire truck, we've got 5 fire trucks that are all 25 years, effectively they're all more than 20 or 25 years old, right? So if we lease a fire truck, what happens in the, say, the 5th year?
We're not
So-
gonna lease another one, right?
So you're getting 25 years of lease payments against the scenario where we've paid for 1 fire truck for 1 year or 1 fire truck for 5 years, and we've had it for 20 years for no money. I mean, we need to just understand that.
Sure, but you could have 4 brand-new fire trucks within the course of 10 years and still be out ahead on a cash flow basis in 1 year. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a triangle. It just accelerates, it evens out capital purchases. And it actually allows you, because it actually allows you to have more shiny new things.
But
You know
then
what I
what
mean?
happens at the end of the 10 years, you have to turn it in, you buy it.
It's a,
You don't have
customer
anything
lease
to
to
own at the
own,
end.
because at that point, you used it, the used market is, they depreciate just like the ambulance does.
Yeah.
The ambulance depreciates $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 per year in its trade-in value, realistically.
Mm-hmm,
A fire truck would imagine would do that tenfold.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
But even if we can buy it for really cheap,
Yeah,
does it have
at
no
the-
sell
at the-
license?
only a
Lease
few
term?
if they let
Then you
us
have
make the
15
payments
years
over
out.
7 years,
Defer,
we're gonna,
yeah.
we keep them 20,
Right.
then
But again, let's not forget the concept. It allows us to spread the cost like a borrowing in the operating budget without having to borrow and increase our tax rate.
And again, like you said, we're coming back to you 2 years from now for another truck. So it would be just spending a little bit more and would still not be spending the cost of an actual whole vehicle. And
Are you coming 2 years from now asking for another truck?
next year's, the 5-year plan is next year's radios, and the following year's is
17.
another fire truck in 17 to replace engine 4.
No, that's the inexpensive.
That's the cheaper.
What's interesting about that?
Interesting meeting, holy shit. That was a better
That's
word.
freak out.
That was a better word.
Okay, well, so you're gonna take a look at that.
I will take a look at that and
I'll have-
plan,
Yeah,
Chief
call
and I to
Linda,
come back
yeah,
next week with
March 4th. whatever we have on
some
it.
sort of plan.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
When I hear from you, you can just email.
Yeah, we'll try to meet Monday,
Okay.
get our final recommendations, and get them to you by Tuesday.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry for the
Thanks,
late night,
Cheryl.
thanks for all the hard work. Yeah, it was a very good conversation, I'm glad you come in and stayed.
How's the new guy working out? Is he? Good kid.
Good kid.
Golden is all.
I can say that because I just turned 40.
Did you, we missed that birthday party?
In September.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Yes, take care.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right. Yeah, he's interesting.
So much for your 840 to 910 spot, huh?
Exactly.
Nice job, Chuck. Thank you.
Good see you.
Yeah.
You guys are all good with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were good, thanks.
All right,
Thanks.
take care.
Got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So,
Is it already 10:20?
yeah, so I
I'm
don't
sorry,
know.
that was mostly my fault, but that is.
That's very interesting.
I didn't know that,
Hmm?
fire truck. I was having the hardest time with the fire, big chunk of money all at once, and I'm just.
Yeah, we'll make sure that, well, we'll see, let them come back and we'll see what it is and make sure we have the money for it in the succeeding years, that's gonna be the job. I mean, make sure that that's available.
Yep.
Because we can't just plan for 1 year and not have that, and not have the funds in succeeding years for it, because it's not like spending, $13,000 on a car, it's big money, but.
I'm sorry, go
It'll be the first time that we've done something like that where we need to, actually the motorcycle, the police, remember we're gonna lease a motorcycle?
Oh, right.
That was smaller money, but.
That was smaller money, and also, they just didn't get
Well,
that
we lease
far.
copiers,
That was.
12, I know it's a smaller scale,
Well,
but there's
people lease
$1,200 in the budget every year for a copy.
Yeah, but it's
a
just,
little bit more money,
yeah.
it's just, yeah, you have to.
Have to make sure that you've got
know
the.
that it's in, I mean,
yeah.
it's, if it's in, it's in. But it's deferred, listen, we all know that 500 out the door on day one is worse than $10,000 over the next 50 years.
What's interesting is that the chief's lease, 6.9, 5.9, 6.9%, 6.5%, and for the NRSD van, and it must have to do with difference between a police car and a van, it's 1.9%. So it's a lot of difference of, financing difference. Now, I don't know, that's just what was out there. What do you guys want to, it's late already, what do you want to discuss? Do you want to go through any NRSD? Who's planning on being at Tri-Town meeting? Anybody can
My
go?
husband's traveling, I really wanted to be.
So that's next Wednesday. I know that they're voting, it'll be done, it'll be a done deal by then. So just to bring you up to date, we sent out the letter. You all saw the responses.
Mhm.
We can talk about it if you want to. They did, at Tuesday night's meeting, talk about the tier. You saw that.
That's great.
And that was great. I think it's a crapshoot to say how that's going to go. It's like you have 3 tiers and there's 118, I'm just going to use, let's use $120,000 in each tier of savings. I think even in tier 1, there were people saying that they wanted something, they didn't want to cut an item. Find mine. And, it got more difficult in tiers 2 and 3 as to whether or not the school committee was going to vote to, accept them. So, I don't think that there's any way to know, and the vote won't be until the 4th when they're voting on, voting on the entire budget. But that's what we have. So that would bring down our, Michael Wood kept on saying it would bring us down to 400,000. That's not really true. Even if we got all 3 pieces of the tier, it would bring us down to 430,000. About 3.7%.
Last year or the year before when they did the tiers, they finally got their head around tier 1, and I think they implemented tier 1.
But that's only 118,000, which would be $35,000. So it's, you're not looking at a lot. Somewhat frustrated with the answers to some of the questions that we raised. I don't know, is there discussion there?
No, just the recap is that they don't look at E&D the way that we look at free cash, and
Yeah.
they're never gonna move off of their utilization of E&D.
I think it's.
That's
I think
just-
it's philosophical.
Yeah, that's.
That's just the way it is, so I don't know if we, so maybe we have to get over the frustration level. The, did ask about, I was confused about the all-day kindergarten, and I wrote that letter, we got response to that too. And the last piece was, Stasha had raised a question about the EMT program, cadet program, and our budget is $13,820, and NRSD budget is $12,000 something, $12,480. We got an answer back from Margie saying that she, that Ann Farrell, who runs the program, said that she thinks the difference is maybe gasoline. I pursued it and went to Nancy Federspiel, and Michael Wood sent back and said, talk to Ann Farrell. So it's a small amount of money.
Yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't some obvious miss, you know what I mean?
Well, it's still, I still think I'll follow up with Ann Farrell, because it was a great question, that should be exactly the same, and then Michael came back and said, well, Ann Farrell has a reason for it, so we'll take a look at it. I just put it in my list of-
As long as they were good with it, I was good with it. I just want to make sure someone had a pair of
No,
eyes
I'm
on
sure
it.
they're good with it.
No, I mean Margie,
Oh.
specifically.
Oh, what did I just do with my list of items? We had minutes, but I guess we'll wait, because it's just so late, and unless everybody's ready to vote on them. Darn it, I hate when I do that. Too many pieces of paper. What else? I know, I'm just trying to look at other stuff. We have other philosophical conversations about conservation. There you go. Conservation, the Conservation Trust Fund. Is anybody up for a discussion on that, or?
I think Brad has an opinion.
Yeah, based upon the email I sent to you, Dirk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the conservation, serves an important function in the town, but the concept of a reserve fund, I think that's what the Conservation Trust can be for, and I think so that in concert with, quite frankly, all other departments having a reserve fund, yeah, I like the idea of getting rid of them all.
Why don't you take on finding out what reserve funds we have?
Sure.
Okay, so let's see what we have, and if there are really, the conservation, the trust fund was set up, specifically at town meeting to do, and it has from day one done specifically have some seed money available. It's always been used for the same purpose, which is seed money available to be able to act if there was something to purchase. It seems like you don't know, but it's never been used for anything else, and it consistently throughout the years from 1960, late 60s when it was established, or early 70s, it's always been used for that purpose. But I think, we'll find out if there are other reserve funds, and I don't want to cut their $9,000 line item budget based on the fact that they.
I'm not looking to cut their budget, but wherever this reserve fund is, whatever it is, and I can understand the concept of it being created 30+ years ago for the purpose of that, and maybe 30 years ago the town didn't own that much land in conservation. I personally feel we got enough, but more importantly, I think the Conservation Trust, I think that's a great purpose for that, and I'm not a fan of the town buying land on that concept, so it doesn't mean they still can't. If something comes up, the Conservation Commission can still propose a warrant article, because whatever's sitting in that trust fund, I can't imagine it's enough to buy a property.
No, it's not
So it
meant to
goes
be, it's
before
not
town.
meant to buy property, it's meant to do the initial step.
And stuff like that, and then it has to go to town meeting vote anyway.
But I'm not sure that we have any recourse. We asked them to go back and re-examine their use of the funds in the trust, and they voted that they're gonna keep using the funds in the trust to do what it was established to do. And I don't know what else we can do. We can't sponsor an article on town meeting floor to dissolve it. I don't think we can put any pressure on them. I don't know.
You just don't put any money back into it.
Which we haven't.
Which we haven't been, $100, they're just not doing anything, and they felt, I think they feel that they need X amount of money to be able to act, and that's what they have in there, and they're not asking for anything more.
The only pressure we can put on them is to cut that $9,000 out of their budget and force them to, if it's important enough for them, to use the funds to do it, which I think is kind of unfair.
Yeah, I don't think that's, because it's never been used for that purpose, and it's.
We have this land and we have an obligation to maintain it, and
yeah.
So I think it's at a dead end, but.
Yeah, I did. I'm kind of
See, I
there too.
don't
And
look at it as
Stasha?
fair, unfair.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm just looking at the trend, they're not, it's not like they're using that 9,000 every year for something. I think they're waiting for, if there was
No, the
something to do.
9,000 they are using.
Oh, okay.
That's for the.
That's for like the mowing and the bittersweet and taking care
So
of the
you're
properties
saying
that we
if-
already
if
own.
we take that out, then they'll
Then they
maybe
would-
use some of the 30 to do those kind of things.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
And
Or maybe
how
not, yeah.
important- Well, and they
But I
should,
thought that
because
line was supposed to be just for land purchase.
No, the 9,000's for maintenance.
Okay.
I don't have the.
The
No,
9,000
land capital,
Land capital improvement is
Is-
for the bittersweet
Bittersweet,
and the
okay.
remediation of invasive species, which will at some point in time get reduced after
I
these
think
special
next year,
projects.
yeah, I think next year.
But it will
they
still
will
go- maintain at a steady $5,000 rate, and it's to maintain the properties that we own. And it's different than the trust, which is for appraisals and valuation of when they have to jump on a piece of property quickly. They have some money at their discretion to do work to potentially present an opportunity for purchase to the town. The fund was never, I don't think, meant to have 200 grand in it so that they could buy
Right,
something.
no.
It was to do that.
Exactly. Yes, David.
I think it would be very easy to generate a citizen's petition to abolish the conservation fund. So you make it another chance to opine on this, because the advisory would have to make a recommendation on that citizen's petition.
Sounds like it's already been made.
No, there's a political question of, do you think it could pass or not, and, what kind of risk do you want to take? But if the group of people I'm working with decide that it would be a good thing to try that, citizens' petitions at an annual town meeting are very easy to generate.
Only 10 signatures.
Just 10 signatures.
And you have to.
Well, we'll pilot it when and if it becomes there, but I wouldn't think, my point is that I assumed that there was a way to do it, it's just that advisory.
No, yeah, I agree. You
Wouldn't
can't
sponsor
do
that.
No.
So we'll just.
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
not
Yeah.
what I was advocating.
Yeah.
The selectmen could sponsor it, but.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
not,
think it would
I don't
work.
think it's,
Yeah.
and I think that would they did and looked into what we asked them to do, and I think that was,
Yeah,
that was
and
good. And I think it's good for them to have gone through that
And
process.
I'll disagree with Brad. I don't believe we have enough land in town, and I believe it's always advantageous for us to acquire land to protect. And I like the flexibility that trust allows it, but I was one of the people years ago that said, hey, enough is enough on
That's
$5,000 getting squirred away. Let's demonstrate that you're using the 30, and the 30 hasn't been used. So we differ a little bit on the reasons for our opinions, but one of the reasons I love Bolton is because of the open space and I wish we had more of it. I know it costs money in the short term, but in the long term, it really doesn't cost as much as a 70-house subdivision that has all school-age children.
That's right, that's a long-term investment. Just a couple of really quick things that I don't think got into the minutes, and so I just want to make a mention of it. There was an amendment to the clerk's budget for $1,000, that's $161 for the, I don't even remember what that's for. Sorry.
Certification.
Yeah, the certification, addition to her wages. That was just an oversight. There was a question, I think it was last week, regarding how, or maybe the week before, regarding how long that landfill line item, the work that, the well monitoring that's done. Someone said 100 years, not 100 years, we're committed for 30.
This is
And
for the landfill, for the DPW.
yeah, for that, water, for the water, for the water, well monitoring.
No, there's two things though. One is the 100 years was for the cap of the old landfill.
Oh,
Where we used to just dump trash in a hole and cover it up.
Right.
Those wells will need to be monitored for, that Harold, I think, is correct, that the EPA, you have to monitor those for
Well, I
contamination.
had the numbers.
The other one is, we had a gas spill at the
No.
DPW barn, and the water got contaminated, and we have to monitor the surrounding people's wells for
30
for however long. I
30
think
years.
there was two separate ones.
There are two separates, so maybe I'd go.
So Harold, when I asked him how long we had to do the landfill.
He was talking
said
about,
100.
he was talking about the,
I believe that's what my recollection was. And then we
Okay.
also asked him how long we have to do the people's well,
That's-
and he said,
Forever?
no, he said until the level of DMTE.
Oh, that's right.
Or whatever the
Yeah.
gasoline,
It's the well
poison is.
monitoring landfill, sorry.
what's the number?
I just interrupted you, I'm so sorry.
439.
I just found it.
439?
It was 439, yep.
Right, and that's the well, that well monitoring is for,
I think that well monitoring is for the
The-
water that was
I'm
contaminated
gonna-
from the gas spill.
let me make
And
sure.
that is done until the EPA or whatever says that the gasoline contamination is below a certain.
well, I think that's
Or there's
30.
no traces of it or something.
Well,
And that's
I asked the Board of Health, and for that one, it's 30 years, but they can extend it because we didn't do monitoring for a few years. For like 10 years, we didn't monitor it, so anyway, trying to clear that up, but I didn't do that at all. Veterans agent budget, we're gonna look at an addition to that for postage, $200. Do we, I don't know how to go about this. For mailing out, in contact, you know, he needs a postage line item to contact, the veterans for, you know, publicity, I don't wanna say publicity, things like the right, but, you know, get word out. And that would be a $200 addition to that budget.
That's fine.
Okay, everybody okay on that? There was also conversation about the veterans breakfast, and that there may be some available money still left over from 275, so that we may not need that for this year anyway. Is there anything else? I mean, there's nothing else for me, unless we do minutes.
No.
Okay, no minutes. Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you all.
Aye.
Oh, aye. Let's vote.
Water to 1, 2
It's
times.
10:35.
Oh, that's the reason. I'm gonna boiling out.